Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the regular City Council meeting of the Dekalb City Council, April 27th, 2020. It may be said that the mayor looks better with a mask on, but believe me, he is more comfortable with it off, and I am going to take that off, even though I will let the citizens of the city of Dekalb know that I am adhering to the orders of the governor, and I guess starting Friday we'll be wearing the mask even more than I may have been doing over the past couple of days. Now, before we call the meeting to order, and I hear some superfluous conversation in the back, so anybody who is joining us remotely, please either mute your phone, mute your mic, or try to be as quiet as you possibly can. Prior to our calling the meeting to order, I want to make sure that those who are following us remotely are in fact signed in remotely. So I'm just going to simply ask, City Clerk Lynn Fazekas, are you with us this evening?
I am with you.
Thank you very much.
Right.
First Ward Alderman Carolyn Morris, are you with us this evening? First Ward Alderman Carolyn Morris, are you with us this evening?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you. Can you hear us?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Third Ward Alderman Tracy Smith, are you with us this evening?
Yes, I am. And I can hear you.
Thank you very much. With that, I'd like City Clerk Fazekas to call the roll, please.
Morris. Here. Finucane.
Here.
Smith.
Here.
Perkins.
Here.
McAdams.
Here.
Verbic.
Here.
Favor.
Here.
Mayor Smith.
Here.
8 present.
Thank you. Just for the information of those who are in attendance tonight, if you are wearing a mask, we've been asked that you speak fairly closely to the microphone. And for those of you attending remotely, if at any time during the meeting you feel that one of our aldermen is not close enough to his microphone, please let us know and we'll make sure, because we do want to make sure that everybody is included on the conversation. Prior to tonight's Pledge of Allegiance, which I will lead, I'd like to ask that we have a slight moment of silence for a number of folks, most of all those who have succumbed and lost their lives to the tremendous coronavirus situation that the world is going through, and to their families. I'd also ask, prior to the pledge tonight, that we honor one of our own, former Third Ward Alderman Gary Wiggins, who passed away over the weekend. Gary was a longtime DeKalb area resident, and again was our Third Ward Alderman, and we extend condolences to Linda and the Wiggins family on Gary's passing. With that, if you'd kindly honor those folks with a moment of silence. Thank you. Now, if you join me by standing and helping me recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
of the United States
to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God,
one nation,
indivisible,
under God,
with liberty
indivisible,
and justice
with
for all.
liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Our first item on the agenda tonight is to approve tonight's agenda,
This meeting is being recorded and/or transcribed.
and I'd like to ask our city council to consider approving a modified or an amended agenda, and that is to announce that our ordinances, K1, L1, L2, L3, L4, L5, L6, and L7 will be addressed after tonight's public hearing and before our resolutions. So if you would follow me, I'll try to do what I just announced, and I would entertain a motion to approve that amended agenda.
I will make the motion to approve the amended agenda.
Second.
It's been moved by Alderman Fanouken, seconded by Alderman Verbeek, that we amend tonight's agenda as announced. Any other additions or deletions? If not, roll call, please.
Morris,
Yes.
Fanouken,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Perkins,
Yes.
McAdams,
Yes.
Verbic,
Yes.
Favor,
Yes.
Mayor Smith,
Yes.
8 ayes.
Thank you. The agenda is approved as amended. We now move along to public participation, and as is the case at all of our meetings, public participation affords an opportunity for anyone to address the council with a consideration of keeping those comments to 3 minutes or less on any item that is on the agenda, or for that matter, any item not on the agenda. And since City Clerk Fazekas is meeting remotely, if anyone in the audience who has not filled out a speaker request form, if you'd like to address the council, please see that speaker request form is given to me. You can walk right up and hand it to me. I don't see anybody doing that, so I'm going to assume that most of the forms I have tonight are in fact, have been in fact given to me. One of the upsides, I guess, if you will, of our situation with COVID, plus the fact that we have some monumental decisions to make tonight about a monumental project south of town. Because of that, we have perhaps more letters to be read into the record under public participation than we normally do. Wanting to be sure that I have a voice by the end of the evening, I have taken the liberty of asking several of our aldermen in whose ward the letter writer resides, to help me along. So under public participation, the first one that I have tonight is a letter from a resident of the second ward, and I'm going to ask Bill Fanouken if you would be so kind as to read this letter, please.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. This letter is from John Pappas, who resides in the second ward. It says, "Dear Mayor Smith, I wanted to take a moment to sincerely thank our nation's firefighters and police officers for putting their lives on the line every day to keep us all safe, especially during these difficult and critical times. In 2019, 146 police officers died in the line of duty in the United States. 50 of the 146 lost their lives to gunshot wounds, 96 from work-related accidents, such as high blood pressure, strokes, mental distress, and countless other circumstances. Many of the tragic incidents occurred while these brave officers were trying to arrest criminals and drug dealers who have caused communities harm across the country. Additionally, 55 firemen lost their lives last year while trying to save civilians from fires, crashes, drowning, and other medical-related incidents. These men and women in uniform lost their lives protecting our public, and as a result, they will tragically never return home to their families. These brave men and women are truly heroes, and it is important that we recognize the sacrifices they make for our nation each and every day. Sincerely, John Pappas.
Thank you, John, and thank you, Bill, for reading that. Our next speaker on public participation is with us tonight. I've had the pleasure over the past couple of years to get to know Jerry Krasinski as we worked very, very hard with Ferrara Candy and now with the Ventus Project. And Jerry would like to make a few comments. Jerry?
My name is Jerry Krasinski with Chicago West Business Center. We have a temporary office at the project site, 675 East Gurler Road in Dekalb. So, Mayor and City Council, I'm here in support of Project Ventus and would like to offer a few comments from my perspective why I'm requesting a unanimous vote in favor, really to support the entire community. Little background. I've stated in the past that this area, really south of 88, has some tremendous resources. When you think of the water, the sanitary, the rail, the road, the infrastructure, NIU, Kish, I can go on, great community. It is also at the convergence of some very critical electrical power. And because of that, in 2010, we began to market the site for mission critical and data centers. Think about it, how long ago that has gone, and but we never gave up with, again, supporting that project for mission critical. In 2014, we further refined that plan with a concept to build a technology park within the industrial park and expand that marketing. And we actually, again, we were focused on about a 50-acre technology park. The only problem is I was off 1-0. This evening, we're here to discuss and hopefully vote for a 500-acre data center and business park. Often these opportunities, they come through the request through the state of Illinois, and they're typically a multi-state search, but really they're a multi-state competition. And you recall a few years ago, we competed for the Toyota Mazda project, and we went a significant way down that path. We did a very, very good job, and unfortunately, they selected another state. But the key point I'd like to make this evening is I don't think people understand the amount of commitment and effort that goes into responding to these RFPs, so I'd like to just share some thanks with several of the people. So, beginning with the City of Dekalb, City Manager Nicholas, Dan Olson, Zach Gill, Brian Favor, they were on the front lines through this entire effort, not only for Ventus, but for Ferrara and so many others. And if they were asking for questions on water, certainly they were asking about sanitary information in these RFP requests. So Kishwaukee Water Reclamation District always stepped up to the plate. Mark Eddington and Mike Holland always responded timely. You may not realize this, but Commonwealth Edison is a key and strategic partner in this effort and on many of these RFPs. Paul Callaghan, who for many years completed these RFPs, retired now. John McCann and Ed Sitter were vital in this. And of course, the DeKalb County Economic Development Corporation, Paul Bork and his staff. Most of these multi-state RFPs were routed through the DCEDC. And Paul and I would literally go on the road show to industrial and data center events carrying our presentation boards, tripods, brochures, things like that. Spent many years pursuing these, as well as being, both of us were the founding member of the Illinois Data Center Coalition to change the legislation that would attract Ventus and other users like this. And in fact, Paul provided testimony in Springfield to convince the lawmakers to support these types of projects. But it didn't stop there. And I'm just going to run through these other very, very quickly. Local taxing bodies and adjacent communities that amended the enterprise zone and other details necessary, such as the school board, the park district, the library, the county, Sycamore, Cortland, so many people in the community continued effortlessly. The local township offices, DeKalb, Afton, Pierce, all participated in various positions. And of course, a great asset to the community, NIU and Kish College. Many letters of support, information packets, tours, etc., through the years responding to these, and I thank Jerry Blazer and others that coordinated those. We have a great business community. 3M, Target, Ideal, and others provided letters of support and private interviews to discuss workforce. Our state representatives, Jeff Kiker and Tom Demmer, full support at the state level. And Mayor Smith, must I remind you that this started in June of 2019 when I called you personally and I said, I think we have a couple of opportunities here. And you and Bill jumped in the car and came to my office, and without any hesitation, your comment was, how can we help? So I would just like to thank everybody. This has really been a community effort. I'm asking for a unanimous vote in support. And I hope tomorrow morning the headlines read something like, we won. The community came together, everyone worked very hard, and that now you've succeeded twice with the development of Ferrara and Ventus in DeKalb, Illinois. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry. We have a number of folks who have indicated that they would like to speak on the Ventus project, and they may be on later on in the agenda, but I would like to afford anyone now who signed a speaker request form who would like to speak now, as opposed to when we get to an item on the agenda, to raise your hand, and I'll put you on now, otherwise we'll wait until we get to that item on the agenda. Okay? Very good. And we do have one other letter to be read under public participation, and that is from Mike Embry in DeKalb. And he says thusly, DeKalb is a strong community with many working parts, but more importantly, people who care about the community. It's extremely important to know that there are people trying to make a difference. When this crisis started, two DeKalb County ladies started a GoFundMe page to raise money to purchase food from local restaurants to provide health workers and first responders. Katie Norris Gear and Melissa Gorbett Butts have raised over $25,000 and provided hundreds of meals to local heroes. Who would ever think of opening a new establishment during this national crisis? I received a call from the regional franchise company that had a new owner for Beef Shack in DeKalb, and they wanted to open mid-April. With a new marketing plan in place, they are now open and excited to be part of the DeKalb restaurant scene. In fact, today, Beef Shack of DeKalb delivered 75 meals to Northwestern Hospital staff. This is a positive investment for the DeKalb. And finally, Mike says, helping small businesses is extremely important. Lee Print Express has teamed with DeKalb Sign Shop to offer a way to promote local businesses and organizations in their community. Their website, tees4dc.com, is selling T-shirts bearing the logos of various DeKalb County businesses and nonprofits. The goal is to get brand recognition out there for as many businesses and organizations as possible to help everyone survive the economic downturn. Part of every local business T-shirt sold receives a donation. The site has been up and running for about 3 weeks. Currently, there are about 100 businesses on the site. Over 1,000 shirts have been ordered, and through these efforts, they already will be donating over $10,000 back to the local business community. In addition, DeKalb County Online has created a new DeKalb County shirt to show pride in our county. And this item is an outline of Illinois with a red heart for DeKalb County, showing the love we have for our little paradise in the country. And Mike brought that over today, and that is the shirt that has that little paradise in the country proclamation to it. Okay, now we move to presentations, item E on your agenda. As you know, on all of our proclamations, we sort of summarize what the proclamation is, and then we deliver that to the appropriate party, organization, department head, or whatever. Tonight, I am going to read in full one of our proclamations. The first one, however, we will see that Fire Chief Jeff McMaster gets it, and that is, I, Jerry Smith, Mayor of the City of DeKalb, Illinois, do hereby encourage all citizens to recognize not only our local firefighters, but those worldwide on May 4 and year-round for their courage, selfless service, and sacrifice. That honoring International Firefighters Day, May 4, 2020. The next proclamation is a community combats COVID. This proclamation is available on the city's website and also on the mayor's page, but I would like to read it given the current scenario that we have in our world. Whereas the DeKalb community is suffering, as are all residents worldwide, with the current coronavirus crisis, and whereas the DeKalb community has been asked to adhere to certain measures mandated or suggested by the Center for Disease Control, the state of Illinois, and the DeKalb County Health Department, whereas the DeKalb community continues to express its appreciation to our first responders, police, fire, and health professionals, and whereas the DeKalb community likewise is indebted to those in occupations deemed essential, including grocery store employees, truck drivers, postal service workers, and government employees, including our very own City of DeKalb staff. And whereas the DeKalb community appreciates the hard work exhibited by area teachers, students, and school district staffers in continuing to focus on e-learning and remote instruction procedures. Whereas the DeKalb community is very much aware of how important nutrition is to those who are currently unemployed or struggling to make ends meet, and is fortunate to have excellent coordination between food pantries, DeKalb County Community Gardens, and our school district to address those needs. And whereas our small businesses led by DeKalb County Unites are devising creative and imaginative ways to stay in business, but are anxious to see what steps may be taken as we take small steps in reopening our economy. Therefore, I, Jerry Smith, Mayor of the City of DeKalb, do strongly encourage all citizens to continue their diligence in adhering to measures promoting public safety, especially in social distancing and wearing masks while in public places and commercial establishments. In witness thereof, I have set my hand and caused the seal of the City of DeKalb to be affixed this 22nd day of April 2020 under my signature. Moving right along, item F, appointments. There are no mayoral appointments this evening. We move to the consent agenda. All items on a consent agenda are in most cases enacted by one motion unless a alderman requests that one of the items be removed. Do I see anyone wanting to delete any items from our consent agenda? If not, I'd entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda. Let me read those items. Minutes of the regular city council meeting of April 13, 2020. Accounts payable and payroll through April 27, 2020 in the amount of $2,426,849.14. investment and bank balance summary through February 2020. Number 4, year-to-date revenues and expenditures through February 2020. And 5, Freedom of Information Act FOIA report, March 2020. I'd entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as read.
So move. Second?
It's been moved by Alderman Perkins, seconded by Alderman Favor. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Finucane,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Perkins,
Yes.
McAdam,
Yes.
Verbic,
Yes.
Favor,
Yes.
Morris,
Yes.
Mayor Smith,
Yes.
8 ayes.
Thank you. The consent agenda is approved as read. Now moving to item H on your agenda, public hearings. We have one public hearing, and I will open this public hearing regarding the vacation of a portion of Kriegel Road at 6:27 p.m. We do have several folks who would like to comment on this public hearing, and then I'm going to ask City Manager Nicholas to speak to this item, and anyone else who would like to speak to it. The first is a letter that we received from Mike Hammett, and this is in the Greg Perkins area. So Greg, if you would kindly read that, please.
Mike Hammett resides at 16222 Kriegel Road, and wants to speak to the agenda item of vacating Kriegel Road. City documents show there is intent to vacate the portion of Kriegel Road that lies within the boundaries of Project Ventus. While I think that is foolish, I realize that arguing this point is not likely to garner much success. What I will argue is the timing. I had a conversation with city staff regarding the specifics of the timing of vacating the road. A summary of that conversation is that the property owner would be free to remove the road from public use as soon as the vacating documents were officially recorded. I got the impression from the conversation that the property owner intends on doing just that. My conversations with city staff also revealed that the construction of the new road to the east of the project would begin as soon as funding and engineering permitted and may not finish this year. How is it acceptable to anyone that a public road is vacated before the new road is constructed? Kriegel Road carries significant traffic comprising of agricultural shipments, visitors to the Afton Forest Preserve, and not an insignificant rural population. There could be a vast amount of time between the unavailability of Kriegel Road before the new road is completed. The new road isn't even an apples-to-apples replacement. It is an incredibly worse option than the existing road. The worst thing about the timing is that Kriegel Road isn't even going away. In the site plans filed, the road will remain in use, though as a private internal road. All significant construction will be east of Kriegel Road. There's simply no need for an expedient vacating of the road if vacating is even appropriate in the first place.
Thank you, Greg. If you could give that back to me, I'll keep that in order. Thank you. That's from Mike Hammett. We also have one other letter to be addressed during the public hearing, and that's from a resident of the 5th Ward, and I'm going to ask our 5th Ward Alderman Scott McAdams to do the honors, please.
This letter is from Ron Naylor, lives at 328 West Sunset Place. Hello, Mayor and Council. I've been reading for the past couple of months the Daily Chronicle's accounts of the Ventus project and of the positive impact that it's projected to have on the city of Dekalb. I support the Ventus project, except for the proposed transportation elements, and in particular, the termination of Peace Road at Gerler Road. I was absolutely stunned yesterday when I was reviewing for the first time the April 13th and April 27th agenda's backup attachments, details, and in particular the proposed building site plan, Kriegel Road Vacation Plan, and the sketchy new road extensions east of the site. With over 500 acres of land to build on, I am sure a site could be found other than one in the way of a future extension of Peace Road. No other improvements are shown for the remainder 450-plus acres to the west. Having never seen or read any of the discussions by any city or county project review groups on the termination of Peace Road prior to this evening's meeting agenda, I would suggest and request that no final action be taken. I would further suggest that a public hearing be scheduled for allowing input on the specific issue of the termination and/or southerly extension of Peace Road. Elimination of future extension of a major regional arterial road that currently extends all the way to Chicago is a huge, huge mistake. Thank you for reading and listening. Ron Naylor.
You do sound different with a mask on.
I do.
Okay, and that, thank you from Fifth Ward resident Ron Naylor. Is there anyone in the audience tonight who would like to speak at this point during this public hearing? If not, I'd ask our city manager, Bill Nicholas, to speak to the item.
Thank you, Mayor, and I'll have an opportunity when you get to an ordinance later on in the agenda.
Right.
Just by way of context, as you know, there is an annexation and development agreement that is coming to you on second reading tonight, and a key part of that is a reference to the possible vacation of Kriegel Road. And there have been a couple of letters regarding that, and in the course of my remarks, I'd like to clarify and maybe more factually state what the purpose is and what the impact will be. So the development plan itself extends across about 505 acres, and as the rough grading is done, it will be moving across the space where Kriegel Road now extends from the southern end of the project limits up to Gerler Road. Additionally, this will be a secure site, and over time, not just during the construction period, it's very important that the access to this site be limited to persons coming through a main entrance, which is to be located on the northeast corner of this property. So Kriegel right now, as extended, goes to the back of the Tollway Oasis. It's not a regional road. It's a minor township road, and at the Plan Commission meeting last week, the supervisor of the Afton Township Board of Trustees and the road commissioner for the Afton Township Board both acknowledged that fact. This does not take you to Chicago unless you run through the Oasis and somehow get onto the tollway, and then if your car is still all right, you can go east. The county does not have in its transportation plan any extension of Peace Road south of Gerler, has not, would have built it if it had. What's proposed here is to extend a new 1 mile road exactly apples to apples as the rural road, that is Kriegel Road, is now designed. In fact, slightly wider driving lanes, moving up from 11 to 12 feet. It's a 66-foot right-of-way. It will have ditches on both the east and west sides, and ample shoulders for people who might veer off slightly, whether it's farm equipment or whatever. Mr. Hammett lives south of Keslinger. As he's northbound, he has the option today to either continue straight on Kriegel or to go west to 23 or east to either Lynch Road or to Salmonock Road. So the path north is not obliterated, as he has suggested. We've given this a lot of thought. A lot of people who live in the area have given it a lot of thought. The neighbors who are immediate to this site have all signed on to the idea of extending a new road just along the east boundary of the Ventus property. We feel amongst the city staff, this is maybe in some respects a better location for that north-south township road, because it will take you closer to where Peace Road and Gerler intersect and actually bring you in at a point that's consistent with the the ending of the roundabout that's designed at that intersection, which is an alternative to a signalized intersection, which would, with the truck traffic expected for Farrar, not for Ventus, happen to probably roll up the asphalt every 3 to 4 years, and the roundabout will keep the traffic moving and then direct it north or east or west. So all in all, from a transportation standpoint, in terms of what most of all the neighboring properties feel, and also in terms of what IDOT is looking at as they're considering this entire roadway and corridor, we feel this is a good alternative to what is there now, and will be maintained certainly over time, has to be owned and maintained over time. We recommend, as we get to this later on in the agenda, the vacation of this. The project cannot go forward without this vacation, and the minimal inconvenience in the short run and no inconvenience in the long run, we feel, is not going to be a proper offset for the completion of the project.
We'll be moving on to, as Bill alluded to, the ordinances, several of them regarding the Ventus project, including this particular vacating of Kriegel Road. Are there any other folks who would like to speak during this public hearing? If not, I'd like to close this public hearing at 6:31 p.m. Now, if you recall, we amended our agenda tonight to enable us to move to the ordinances section of the agenda, much of which deals with the Ventus project prior to our considerations tonight and our resolutions. So let's go to K, ordinances, second reading. K, ordinances, second reading. Number 1, ordinance 2020-023, approving an annexation and development agreement with Ventus Tech Services, LLC, Project Ventus. This is second reading, and I would entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Alderman Fanouken, seconded by Alderman McAdams. And prior to City Manager Nicholas making any comments on this, I do have a number of folks who have written letters, and we also have a couple folks in the audience who would like to speak to this item. So, if I may, with your patience, please. The first one is from Paul Callaghan, 1512 Creighton Circle East, DeKalb, Illinois. The proposal by Ventus Tech Services, LLC, before the City of DeKalb Planning and Zoning Commission represents another positive step in transformational economic development for the City of DeKalb. Comprehensive plan policy and zoning regulations are established to support city needs for orderly growth and development. Based on my career experience in the public utility sector, I can see that the Ventus documents before you accomplish this goal. In addition, it has long been a desire by community leaders and the DeKalb County Economic Development Corporation to diversify the local tax base, reduce the individual tax burden, and to attract higher wage jobs to support balanced growth of industrial, residential, and commercial sectors of the economy. The Ventus Tech Services Plan is a huge boost to this strategy. My working career included 31 years in management roles with ComEd, and therefore I know the utility has the ability to deliver the extensive amount of electricity required to operate a large-scale data center proposed by Ventus Tech Services. This is possible because transmission-rated power lines are already in place in this area, providing a unique infrastructure asset. The long-term potential for this kind of development was identified in numerous economic development studies. This reliable power will serve the Ventus project with no loss of capacity to existing customers or the city of Dekalb. The Ventus Tech Services project will generate significant benefits to the entire region in the form of investment, construction, new tax revenue, and high-wage job creation. I fully support the proposed rezoning, development plans, and plat of subdivision before you and urge your approval. Submitted respectfully, Paul Callaghan, 1512 Creighton Circle, East Dekalb. The next is a letter from Jerry Wallstrom, Century 21 affiliated, and Sue Elsner, Century 21 affiliated, both DeKalb, Illinois. To members of the DeKalb Planning and Zone Commission and City Council, this is to show our support for your positive consideration of the petition of Ventus Tech Services for approval of the zoning and preliminary and final development plans for a data center to be completed on DeKalb's south side. The proposed development will create new, higher-paying quality jobs. Higher salaries will promote the construction, sale, and occupancy of a larger selection of new and existing quality homes. While DeKalb does have some existing, previously occupied, high-end homes on the market, there is a noticeable absence of new construction in that price point. There has been a movement in those sales to Sycamore. If you go to Sycamore, there is a far better selection of luxury homes that meet the criteria of buyers seeking either new or existing homes, resulting in a far larger number of sales. We need to create a demand for these homes and buyers that can afford to make the necessary investment. The more we can generate demand, the greater the possibility of beginning to refresh the high-end market, which we seem to have lost to Sycamore after the 2008 recession. Increased employment and vitality will add to the general overall DeKalb real estate market and elevate median sale values. New housing development is important to balanced and sustainable growth, providing the housing stock for general workforce recruitment, which supports demand for retail products and commercial services. Finally, the City of DeKalb and DeKalb County have the vacant land and infrastructure to accommodate increased housing development and will support improved workforce development. After the 2008 recession, large numbers of platted vacant improved lots went unused, and most still exist today in DeKalb. The half-filled subdivisions reflect the depressed building activity over the last 12 years, and that can be remedied with increased commercial development and employment. Signed, Jerry Wallstrom and Sue Elsner. The next is a letter from Paul Borick, the Executive Director of the DeKalb County Economic Development Corporation. Members of the Planning and Zoning Commission and City Council, the DeKalb County Economic Development Corporation approved a resolution supporting the City of DeKalb annexation and development agreement with Ventus Tech Services, LLC, that is included in your meeting packet tonight. DCEDC has worked for more than 2 years to attract data centers and recruit Ventus Tech Services to locate in DeKalb. As Executive Director of DCEDC, I would like to share the following points in support of Ventus Tech Services development. The 505-acre Ventus Tech Services site has been planned for office, research park, commercial, and light industrial use since the City of DeKalb's adoption of the 2005 Comprehensive Plan. Data centers are a compatible use within the planned development industrial designation. Rezoning to planned development, data center, and accessory use is appropriate and recommended. The attraction of data centers will increase wages while taking advantage of DeKalb County's distinctive education, water, power, and fiber optic capacity. The City of DeKalb has abundant, high-quality municipal water available to support the cooling requirements of large-scale data centers. Likewise, the Kishwaukee Water Reclamation District has the capacity to treat wastewater generated after use by data centers to cool operating equipment and data servers. The City of DeKalb and the Chicago West Business Center site have access to abundant broadband capacity available to provide for the data transmission requirements of large-scale data centers. Broadband capacity is available from multiple private telecommunications centers with fiber optic transmission lines along I-88, as well as Northern Illinois University and DeKalb County fiber optic networks in the county and throughout Northern Illinois. The location of the City of DeKalb and the Chicago West Business Center site at the Peace Road interchange on I-88 affords efficient traffic access for construction workers, construction equipment and materials, permanent employees, and professional visitors. Demand for large-scale data centers is expanding throughout the United States and the world. Increased consumer and business demand for technology applications and cloud storage are likely to contribute to the growth of the data center industry. DeKalb's availability of distinct assets and resources required by the data centers help ensure the continued growth of this industry in DeKalb County. Ventus Tech Services has acquired the 505-acre site and plans to invest $800 million in the development of a 970,000 square foot data center employing 50 high-wage professionals. The acquisition and improvement of this property and the extension of utilities will increase the value of adjacent properties for future development. The City of DeKalb has already initiated engineering for construction of a new north-south road just east of the data center site from Gerler to Kesslinger. Completion is anticipated during 2020. The new road would replace Kriegel Road between Gerler Road and the southern limits of the site, which must be vacated to provide for the security of the data center campus. For these reasons, I strongly encourage the Planning and Zoning Commission to recommend that the DeKalb City Council approve the zoning map amendment upon annexation from the SFR1 Single-Family Residential District to the PD1 Planned Development Industrial District, that's PDI. I also recommend approval of a preliminary and final development plan and subdivision plat for the approximately 505-acre property generally located east of State Route 23 and south of Gerler Road for a data center and accessory uses. Signed, Paul Borick, Executive Director, DeKalb County Economic Development Corporation. I'm going to give either Mike Verbeek or Tony Favor the opportunity to read this next letter since I needed a drink of water. So Mike, would you read that? This is from a couple friends of yours at NIU, Lisa Freeman, the president, and Gerald Blasey. So if you would read that, please, for us.
Dear members of the City Council and the Planning and Zoning Commission, Northern Illinois University is pleased to support the petition by Ventus Tech Services, LLC, for approval of the rezoning, preliminary and final development plans, and a plat of subdivision for a data center. We believe the data center will offer outstanding opportunities for our students, graduates, and faculty. Moreover, diversification of the local economy to attract higher wage jobs and salaries and support balanced growth will support the university's efforts to enroll students and encourage employees to live locally. Accordingly, the Division of Research and Innovation Partnerships at NIU will work to help ensure the data center, community, and university will mutually benefit from future collaborations. The DeKalb County Economic Development Corporation has targeted research development and information technology as a strategic direction because this emphasis builds on a strong foundation of assets and resources available in DeKalb County to support technology and data center development and operation. As a research institution committed to nurturing a nascent innovation ecosystem, tough to pronounce, NIU views this R&D and IT focus vital to the creation of conditions necessary for establishing a critical mass of high-tech industry and small business startup players. Such conditions create virtuous circles of innovation-driven R&D, entrepreneurial activity, and job creation. NIU provides information technology, education, and training resources that can support the operation of technology industries, including data centers. NIU faculty can create tailored curriculum and specialized coursework for data center specific requirements to meet the emerging needs of the high-tech industry workforce. Likewise, data centers can provide opportunities for applied learning, internships, and full-time employment of students and graduates. NIU has collaborative arrangements with other industry partners that will serve as models and allow this new collaboration to flourish quickly. Lastly, from the perspective of workforce development, NIU educates computer scientists, engineers, and other highly technical advanced degree-holding students fully prepared to enter the workforce in data center operations. Similarly, NIU research and innovation capabilities can contribute to the development of technology companies and innovation partnerships vital to regional growth. These high-wage jobs are needed to attract professionals and retrain graduates to improve prosperity in the city of DeKalb and DeKalb County.
Is that the end of the letter, Mike?
No. For these reasons, we strongly encourage the Planning and Zoning Commission recommend that the DeKalb City Council approve the zoning map amendment upon annexation from the SFR1 Single-Family Residential District to the PDI Planned Development Industrial District. We also recommend approval of a preliminary and final development plan and subdivision plat for the approximately 505-acre property generally located east of State Route 23 and south of Gurler Road for a data center and accessory uses. Sincerely, Lisa C. Freeman, President, and Gerald C. Blasey, Vice President for Research and Innovation Partnerships.
Mike, you did that so well, you must have an NIU education. Okay. We have two folks who would like to speak in person tonight regarding the Ventus project and projects. The first is Matt Swanson, 15821 Lynch Road in DeKalb. Matt, if you'd come to the podium, please, and speak closely to the microphone so that we can all hear you, please.
Mayor Smith, members of the council, thank you for hearing my comments. As stated, I do live on Lynch Road, and this project is within sight of my house. So, at any rate, my name's Matt Swanson. I'm the president of Labor's Local 32 and the DeKalb County Building Trades. Excuse me. The DeKalb County Building Trades represents 17 separate construction trades, which have a total of over 8,000 members. We support the proposed data center. This data center will bring needed jobs to the trades. The general contractor has estimated 2 million man-hours of construction work. They have indicated a need for 800 tradesmen. This data center will transform DeKalb County. The data center will bring taxes equal to or greater than the sum of the taxes of Goodyear, Nestle, Panduit, and Target combined. The data center is considered essential work, and therefore this work will continue through the COVID-19 crisis. In addition to the construction trade jobs created by the data center, they will employ 50 people in well-paying jobs. The hundreds of tradesmen and women, many of whom live in DeKalb County, will contribute to the local economy. They will purchase food, fuel, and other necessary items. The tax-based construction jobs, permanent jobs, and transformational nature of this project are all reasons that the building trades unions are proud to support this essential project. and we sincerely hope you will join us in our support of this important project. With that being said, I would also like to thank the work of Bill Nicholas, who's worked tirelessly on this project. He's a very strong asset to the city and the county, and he's worked very, very hard on that, and that's greatly appreciated by all of us. The last thing I'd like to state is at the beginning of the meeting, Mayor Smith, you made remembrances. My predecessor was Gary Wiggins, and he was the president of the building trades for 25 years. He did a fantastic job. He was a great person. He'll be sorely missed. Rest in peace, Gary. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Appreciate your comments. Okay, we have one other speaker, I believe, who would like to address the council tonight on the Ventus ordinances. The next one is Lance McGill, 3715 Pebble Beach Court, DeKalb. Lance?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. Lance McGill. I live just west of what you see on the map there. In regard to Project Ventus, I'm here as a citizen of DeKalb and as a business representative for the operating engineers, Local 150. As Mr. Krasinski stated earlier, job took 10 years to get going from when they wanted to start a data center, but as he also pointed out, it's 10 times the size. So good things come to those who wait, and hopefully we can see many more of these projects. The 4th Ward in DeKalb doesn't see a lot of retail development. We have some light commercials, some small industrial, but Mr. Krasinski and the mayor and Bill Nicholas and others have helped to bring quite a couple good projects to DeKalb. For our Pan, it's going to be an excellent acquisition. Manufacturing always does well. And data centers, you know, as Matt said, 2 million man hours for tradespeople. That equates to about $180 million in wages and benefits that are going to go into local hands. And then the long-term good paying jobs as well, as the realtor said. We've had a number of upper homes go to Sycamore. That's where the market's at. I live in the South Point Center, and as they said, there are a number of empty lots that I would love to see get filled up over there. You know, and as Matt said, you know, as all these workers come into town, and some of them will be from town, they'll be spending their money locally, both on food, fuel, other things. So that $180 million is going to get spent locally too. It's not just going to be taken somewhere else. These are good jobs, like we said, versus minimum wage or another basic warehouse with $12 an hour jobs. Not knocking those, but they don't support the community real well. These will. And lastly, again, thank you to the mayor, the DeKalb County Economic Development Community, and especially Bill Nicholas. He's been tremendous to work with for us and really helped us get the ball rolling on our end. Thank you.
Thank you, Lance. Again, we have a motion on the floor and a second, and those are the comments regarding the annexation and development agreement, which we approved in first reading several weeks ago. And before we take that vote, I'd like to ask City Manager Nicholas if he'd like to have any comments.
Thank you, Mayor. The details of the proposed annexation and development agreement that's before you tonight on second reading were read and discussed in some detail 2 weeks ago. You'll be pleased to know I'm not going to drag you through that again, but I am happy to answer any questions you may have. The essential features of what you're looking at tonight were first heralded to the community and to you back in early March, at which time the council approved a pre-development agreement by resolution, which established its good faith embrace of the project as it was conceptually designed at that point. And in return, in good faith, the company acquired over 500 acres within a week's time or several weeks after that. So, the public hearing that was held a couple weeks ago allowed people the opportunity to address this. We've had a few other letters since then, and tonight you heard a few about Kriegel Road, which we'll talk about a little bit more later on. The background, I think, addresses the details, as I said, sufficiently. We know from comments that have been offered through the evening that the council, as well as the Planning and Zoning Commission, have seen overwhelming support from our community, not just in the city of DeKalb, but throughout the county. Every taxing body, and Jerry Krasinski spoke to this earlier, every taxing body that participates in the DeKalb County Enterprise Zone has unanimously supported this project, including the Afton Township Board of Trustees, the newest partners in the expanding DeKalb County Enterprise Zone area. The DeKalb County Economic Development Corporation, whose membership includes the leading private and public entities throughout the county, has strongly cheered this project from the start. Cohen Barnes is here tonight, the president of that organization. DeKalb County Building and Construction Trades Council, which Matt so well represents, and many others, without going into detail, we've had great discussions. This is not only of interest to them in terms of the jobs, but also in terms of the future for our community. The presidents of Northern Illinois University and Kishwaukee College have obviously voiced their support, and you've heard that. So tonight you have that opportunity to vote to support the Annexation Development Agreement, and there are 3 follow-on ordinances which are referred in a general way in this agreement. I would finally say this, that after we've calculated the economic impact, which will surpass any relative private investment in our community, since, here's the historian in me, the Chicago to Dixon Railroad was completed in the early 1850s, relatively speaking, did not compare with the impact that this will have in terms of industrial EAV. I think we can obviously draw some encouragement from this in some very difficult times. And not the least because out of many possible development sites, Ventus Tech Services chose DeKalb, DeKalb County, and the state of Illinois. Many persons, and most especially Jerry Krasinski, private entities such as ComEd, public entities that I referenced earlier, are responsible for that decision. We can include past city councils that foresaw the potential for premier industrial parks and campuses along the I-88 corridor and invested in a water system, and they invested in people that would help us invite high-tech companies. I'm very proud to have played a small part in that process, along with a very talented city staff and a most remarkable Ventus team of creative and generous professionals. I wholeheartedly recommend your support of this agreement.
Okay, we have heard a lot of support. We've heard from our city manager. We have discussed this initially some time ago. Is there any further discussion on this first ordinance that we're considering? And this is for second reading. If not, roll call, please.
I have a question. Hello?
Yes, Carolyn, I'm sorry, Carolyn Morris, our first ward alderman.
Just one question. How many people live on Kriegel Road within the subject site?
Nobody.
Okay.
There are no
Thank you for
electors and no homes in that area. And immediately south of that, as you get down to between the southern boundary of the site and Keslinger Road, there is nobody that lives on the properties that adjoin the west or east side of that road. I would also add that, since you raised the question of Kriegel Road again, that all of the adjacent farm owners to the east of Kriegel Road and around the south end, the east of Kriegel Road, are supporting the construction of the new road, which does a couple of things. One, it's a good offset for It's exactly the same basic design as Kriegel Road. But the other thing it does is it makes them overnight prime development sites. It brings the possibility of running down the right-of-way of that road, sewer, water, fiber, other utilities that will serve the back ends, I guess you would say, of their farms. I don't have the farm parcel, maybe I do have the farm part, but you can see the delineate, that's not it. Maybe we don't have that on here.
Absolutely.
But in any case.
Yeah, that sounds great. Thank you.
Yeah,
That's all.
so they are in support of this.
Carolyn, I take that answers your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any further comments or questions? Again, City Clerk Fazekas, roll call, please.
Alderman Smith.
Yes.
Perkins.
Yes.
McAdams.
Yes.
Verbic.
Yes.
Favor.
Yes.
Morris.
Yes.
Finucane.
Yes.
Mayor Smith.
Yes,
8 ayes.
that ordinance is approved. Now we move to 3 ordinances, all regarding Ventus, all on first reading. The first is L1, Ordinance 2020-025, approving the annexation of certain property to the City of Dekalb, Project Ventus. I'd entertain a motion, please.
So moved.
Second?
It's been moved by Alderman Verbic, seconded by Alderman McAdams. City Manager Nicholas, please.
I just note to the council that there are a number of exhibits to this particular ordinance. There is a colorized exhibit that looks a lot like what you just saw on the screen. There's also a legal description, and sandwiched between those is an Exhibit B, which has the annexation plat and description. It also shows the roadways and so forth. This annexation ordinance is described in the Annexation and Development Agreement, and unless the council has any questions, it's understood that the annexation ordinance will be approved, or that the approval should not be unreasonably withheld. We'll get in the next ordinance, in the rezoning, an opportunity to talk about a little more of the detail, but this is a pretty straightforward application of what you just approved.
Yes, it is. Any discussion or questions or answers of City Manager Nicholas on this ordinance proposal? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Perkins.
Yes.
McAdams.
Yes.
Verbic.
Yes.
Favor.
Yes.
Morris. Is now exiting.
Yes.
Finucane.
Yes.
Smith. Alderman Smith. Mayor Smith.
Yes.
Seven aye, 1 absent.
Tracy, are you on the call? Apparently not, okay. That motion does pass on first reading. Would anyone care to waive second reading and approve?
All right, I'll
to
move
waive
that
second
we,
reading and approve.
Carolyn did.
You second, Bill?
Yes.
Okay. It's been moved by Alderman Morris, seconded by Alderman Fanouken, that we waive second reading and approve this ordinance. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
McAdams.
Yes.
Verbit.
Yes.
Unknown participant is now joining. Favor.
Yes.
Morris.
Yes.
Fanouken.
Yes.
Smith.
Yes. I apologize. I lost my connection earlier, Mayor.
Perkins.
Yes.
Mayor Smith.
Yes.
8 ayes.
Thank you. That ordinance is approved. And great to have you back, Alderman Smith. Let's move along to item number 2. This again for first reading. Ordinance 2020-026, approving the zoning petition of Ventus Tech Services, LLC, to rezone certain property to PDI, Planned Development Industrial, and to approve plans and plat of subdivision for the development of approximately 970,000 square foot data center and accessory uses, with an option to develop additional data center buildings and associated developments, and approving of the zoning petition of the City of Dekalb to authorize text amendments to Chapter 23, Unified Development Ordinance of the Municipal Code of the City of Dekalb, to add data center into the list of permitted uses allowed within the city's industrial zoning districts. This is all under Project Ventus. I'd entertain a motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Alderman Fanouken, seconded by Alderman Perkins. City Manager Nicholas, please.
Thank you, Mayor. By state statute and also by our Unified Development Ordinance, the annexation of land, which we haven't done a lot of here in recent years, brings that land into our corporate limits under the city's most restrictive zoning, which is SFR1, single family. The attached rezoning ordinance that you see to your packet tonight prescribes a more appropriate zoning for this intended plan development, PDI, Plan Development Industrial. Also details a number of key design and development standards. I'd like to just go through some of these very quickly. Findings of fact, which conclude that the development conforms to our UDO and will not be detrimental to adjacent properties. There's a legal description also incorporated in this ordinance. The annexation and development agreement is attached for further reference. If you haven't read it, you will read it as you go through this. Also, there are, under Exhibit C, relevant development standards with respect to setbacks, landscaping, permitted uses. Parking has also been identified. And I just want to say that there's one notable definition of a setback here, and that is a setback from Route 23. The right-of-way would normally be about 75 feet. It's going to be 400 feet, which carries a imaginary line, if you will, down from north to south. There is a deep setback for the Ferrara development as well, and that removes it further from the proximity of the homes to the west side of the road. There will be appropriate berms and vegetation, trees and so forth also on top of that setback area. A final plan depicts the first of multiple phases, and that's attached, and you've had a chance to look at that. Also, plat of subdivision. All these various things in some respects aren't as important as our UDO text amendments, because they define that a data center, which had never been heard of when the UDO was crafted back in the 1990s, is a use that is allowed in the various lists of permitted uses that are part of our UDO for commercial and industrial purposes. Finally, there is a schematic engineering plan, and that plan depicts various infrastructure improvements that are expected, including the widening and upgrading of Gurler Road, the signalization of the intersection at Gurler and Route 23, construction of the roundabout I mentioned earlier at Peace and Gurler, extension of water and sewer mains and the like. So by a unanimous vote of 6-0, the Planning and Zoning Commission, after hearing a detailed presentation by Dan Olson, our principal planner, voted to recommend to you approval of the following. Upon annexation, which you have just voted in favor of, to rezone this development area from SFR 1, Single-Family Residential District, to the PDI, Planned Development Industrial District. Also to approve the preliminary and final development plan, which are part of this ordinance packet, and the subdivision plat for the approximately 505-acre property. And we ask that you consider the Plan Commission's recommendation on both first and second reading tonight to help facilitate the company's timetable for mass grading and early construction.
Thank you. Any questions, comments on this ordinance proposal? Roll call, please.
Verbic,
Yes.
Favor,
Yes.
Morris,
Yes.
Fanouken,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Perkins,
Yes.
McAdams,
Yes.
Mayor Smith,
Yes.
8 ayes.
That ordinance is approved on first reading.
I'd like to move that we waive second reading and approve.
I second.
Been moved by Alderman Fanouken, seconded by Alderman McAdams, that we waive second reading and approve this ordinance. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Favor,
Yes.
Morris,
Yes.
Fanouken,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Perkins,
Yep.
McAdams,
Yes.
Verbic,
Yes.
Alderman Verbic,
Yes.
Mayor Smith,
Yes.
8 ayes.
That ordinance is approved. Finally, number 3, this is I believe the last Ventus-related proposal tonight. This is ordinance 2020-027, vacating a certain portion of Kriegel Road in the city of Dekalb. Project Ventus. Entertain a motion to approve, please.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Alderman Favor, seconded by Alderman Verbeek. City Manager Nicholas, please.
We've had some conversation about this. I'll just add a few things that you may or may not know. Up to this point, the public dollars for road improvements in the area, to open up this area to the kind of developments that we have here, the Gurler Road upgrade from a 2-lane to 3-lane section, and the intersection at 23, and the intersection at Peace, and so forth, is the commitment is that will be done all by private parties. Representative Demmer and Kiker, in recognition of that, recognition of the fact that the state money that they had committed some months ago can now be swung toward improving really the use of rural property owners to drive their farm products north and south on that new proposed rural road. That money now can be swung to that purpose, and it can be also designed in such a way that it will address a variety of long, sticky drainage issues in the west end of the several farms that are just east of the Ventus site, which actually take some area out of production every year. And we're going to try to address that. We really have to, because we're running a road through the area. You have to address the drainage concerns and old field tile and all the rest. So we're doing a very elaborate investigation. It's already underway. Ultimately, this road is about $1 million road, including land acquisition. But the benefit to the area will be there, and it'll be a lasting benefit. And as I mentioned before, many of the nearby property owners, Lance McGill was here earlier saying how this is in his shadow, and Matt Swanson, the Bemis family, the Walter family, the Gormley family have all been involved in the planning of this road. Not to mention the Afton Township Road Commissioner, the county highway engineer, and ultimately IDOT gets a hand in because of the upgrades of Gurley. They have to ultimately put their hand over it. They won't be designing this road. That'll be done locally. So we feel that we've addressed and exceeded the concerns of what you've heard tonight, and we support this ordinance. Likewise, we feel that it would be appropriate to approve it on first and second reading tonight.
Thank you, City Manager Nicholas. Any comments or questions? If not, roll call, please.
Morris,
Yes.
Fanouken,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Perkins,
Yes.
McAdams,
Yes.
Verbic,
Yes.
Favor,
Yes.
Mayor Smith.
Yes.
8 ayes.
That motion passes on first reading. Is there a motion to waive second reading and approve?
I will move that we waive second reading and approve.
Second.
It's been moved by Alderman Fanouken, seconded by Alderman Verbic, that we waive second reading and approve this ordinance. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Fanouken,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Perkins,
Yes.
McAdams,
Yes.
Verbic,
Yes.
Favor,
Yes.
Morris,
Yes.
Mayor Smith.
Yes.
8 ayes.
That ordinance is approved as printed. Wow. Okay, let's move along now. We're still under
Mayor,
ordinance.
before we do, can we ask one person to stand up and take a bow? Carl Comalucci, representing Ventus, is here tonight.
Thank you very much for a great report. Hello, Carl. Great to have you here.
Thank you.
Number 4, ordinance 2020-028, authorizing amendments to ordinance 2019-004 to modify setbacks and other provisions and to approve a final plat of re-subdivision of the Northland Plaza Shopping Center on Sycamore Road, B33 Northland Plaza, LLC. I'd entertain a motion, please.
So moved?
Second.
Second?
Okay, it's been moved by Alderman McAdams, seconded by Alderman Favor. City Manager Nicholas, please.
Thank you, Mayor. First, I want to say apologies on behalf of Kevin Buick. He was the attorney representing the petitioner and had to leave to go to another meeting tonight.
I saw Kevin back there, yes.
Yeah. So this is pretty straightforward. The Planning and Zoning Commission, reviewed this at its last meeting as well. And what's at work here is that the petitioner wants to allow the the owners of 5 smaller buildings to allow their businesses to be on individual lots so they can be sold in fee simple. This is more the trend today than it might have been 20, 25 years ago. And as a witness to that, the most recent entrant to this area, Planet Fitness, when they were choosing their DeKalb location, basically insisted on having their own footprint and did purchase a piece of what used to be the larger building to the, what is that, northeast there of the complex. So what's before you tonight with some minor amendments to the UDO is to allow these interior businesses, the Buffalo Wild Wings, K Jewelers, and others, to be able to buy the land underneath their buildings in fee simple if they choose to do so.
Thank you. Yeah, I believe this came before the Planning and Zoning Commission, did it not, Dan? And that
Yes.
was a unanimous
Yes.
recommendation? Okay. Any further discussion on this? Roll call, please.
Smith,
Yes.
Perkins,
Yes.
McAdams,
Yes.
I'm sorry, Alderman McAdams?
Yes.
Thank you. Verbic,
Yes.
Favor,
Yes.
Morris,
Yes.
Fanouken,
Yes.
Mayor Smith,
Yes.
8 ayes.
That motion passes on first reading. Does any member want to move to waive second reading on this?
Motion to waive second reading and approve.
Second?
It's been moved by Alderman Verbeek, seconded by Alderman Favor, that we waive second reading and approve this ordinance. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Perkins,
Yes.
McAdams,
Yes.
Verbic,
Yes.
Favor,
Yes.
Morris,
Yes.
Fanouken,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Mayor Smith,
Yes.
8 ayes.
That ordinance is approved as presented. Now moving along to number 5, ordinance 2020-029, approving a special use permit for a cannabis business establishment for an adult use and medical cannabis dispensary at 818 West Lincoln Highway, New Med Partners, LLC. I'd entertain a motion, please.
So moved?
Second.
It's been moved by Alderman McAdams, seconded by Alderman Verbeek. Before we ask City Manager Nicholas to speak to this item, I would like to read 2 short letters that we have received regarding this proposal. The first one is from Ron Grutter at 330 North First Street, DeKalb. And he writes very succinctly, "I think we should be protecting our citizens, not leading them down a dark road of destruction. It is our duty and moral responsibility to lead in a good way, not with greed. Having this store in a family-oriented area is just wrong." Signed, Ronald Grutter. The second letter from Margaret Gormley, 330 North First Street, DeKalb. And she writes, "I would prefer that we do not approve of this store. Do we really want to expose children to this? It will go right next to a laundromat that I use all the time. The people that use the laundromat are families with young children. I worry about the safety and the smell. I know that the store is not going to smell, but that's no guarantee. With people that have asthma, it seems a risk for them. The whole area is filled with restaurants and stores that are family-friendly, so I ask that we vote no. Signed, Margaret Gormley. Is Cohen Barnes still in the audience? He wanted to speak to this item, but he missed the chance. So with that, I would turn it back over to City Manager Nicholas for any comments he might have.
Mayor, the petitioner's here tonight, and this would be normally the point where they would make a presentation.
Sure. Who would like to come up? Please identify yourself.
Good evening, Mayor.
Good evening.
City Council. My name is Jim Hughes. I'm with Next Generation Development. We're a developer builder out of the Wheaton area, residential and commercial. I'm here as co-petitioner with Mr. Bob Fitzsimmons, who is going to be the guy.
I'm sorry, I can't hear.
Okay, I'm sorry about that. I'm here with Mr. Bob Fitzsimmons, who is CEO of NewMed. He will answer all the questions that you have. I'm basically the real estate guy. We've worked with the Finn family and their group. They've been wonderful to work with. We felt the location was well served for this purpose, ample parking, access to I-88. We just felt as a whole that it was a good position, a good place to be. So I know you really don't want to hear about that kind of stuff with me. You're more interested in the operations and how the nuances of this work. So I'm going to ask Mr. Bob Fitzsimmons to come up and he can answer any and all of your questions. And I just want to say, in working with Bill and Dan and talking with the mayor, it's been a delight to work with everybody here. Thank you.
Bob?
Good evening. Thanks for your time and attention. I think the materials speak for themselves as to who we are, but we do run 3 existing dispensaries of a highly medical focus initially. The law has changed things for all of us. We have more cancer patients still currently than any other dispensary in the state, and we pride ourselves on acting perhaps more cautiously and more reasonably than most, and that's part of the reason we haven't had a number of the problems you've seen associated with some dispensaries, including crowds and other issues. I think we're family friendly, right next to the most successful dental clinic in Peoria, and we are in a shopping mall very similar in Urbana, also right next to the local hospital. Some of this will evolve over time, but we picked Dekalb for a reason. The demographic is near perfect, and I know we talked about this at a couple other levels, but I will say it's will be somewhat surprising in that we don't pick it because of college students. Most of our customers, believe it or not, in Urbana are administrators, professors, or other professionals, because this is not an inexpensive product. It's highly regulated because of its quality and its safety, and that's very different from what some people expect. No smell whatsoever from our products because they're packaged as required by the state, and we're proud to announce tonight that we have actually already come to your area because we bought the cultivation center a couple weeks ago just west of town, so we will be a vertically integrated operation employing well more than 100 people in your vicinity.
Well, Bob, I appreciate your appearing before the Planning and Zoning Commission the other night. I had the opportunity to watch that. Why don't you just stay right there and see if we have any questions? Any council folks would like to ask or any questions of Mr. Fitzsimmons? Alderman Perkins.
So how do you manage the traffic flow? You know, I've had some folks speak to me with concerns about that, and you see the things you see on TV are kind of crazy.
They are kind of crazy. It's actually, we're lobbyists at multiple levels in multiple states. We're active in other states that have had similar issues. Illinois had issues in particular because there are very few dispensaries, especially few that were ready to serve the adult use population on January 1st. So for example, we now have a special use approved in Aurora through Jim's good efforts. But it's partly because a long process because there was an issue there. There was one dispensary serving over 1 million people because 2 other dispensaries in the area did not convert. Municipal didn't allow them to convert to adult use, and they didn't see it coming. For us, we actually had 33,000 hits on the first day because we have the best located dispensary in Chicago, we believe, in River North. There will be 5 others now in River North. And so the population will be split a lot of different ways. That'll equally be true in the Aurora area. There'll be 6 or 8 within a 10-mile drive of that area because, as you probably know, Illinois is moving to 200 or 300 dispensaries minimum in the next 2 years. What we did differently from others, particularly from the North Aurora experience that you may have seen online, is we did not allow people to wait in line. We actually had the Chicago police there to disperse lines. Instead, we bought people breakfast, lunch, or dinner across the street on January 1st and January 2nd in a pop-up store we put immediately across North Avenue. What we did is we collected names from people who were willing and basically gave back general callback times for others who weren't and said, you're not going to get service today because we're only going to serve X hundred customers a day. Right, that was up from 50 to 150. Now we're serving 300 customers in some locations. But we don't let 1,000 people line up, which is what causes these long lines. It's not good customer service. We have a text back, callback system. We actually have 2 hours in advance every day where we serve our medical patients because we don't want to mix the populations. We believe the medical focus and the statutes also suggest the medical purpose is paramount going forward. And so we tried to, it's not profit be damned. There's plenty of profit for everyone in this business. It's just you want to develop your customer base gradually, professionally, and serve them. And if that means we serve fewer people in the first half of this year but serve them better, that's just fine with us. By the second half of the year, you'll see there's twice as many dispensaries. The problem will alleviate itself. 2 years from now, there's going to be healthy competition. The margins will be much lower, and hopefully people will therefore focus even more on customer service.
Thank you. Alderman Verbeek.
Yeah, that was part of the concerns that were shared with me as well, was just in general, that environment, whether it's everything from traffic of vehicles to behavior of customers and those kinds of things. But certainly myself attending the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting the other night, having a few words with you after the meeting, thank you. I've spoken with Richard Finn, the owner of the property. I want to commend you on the amount of work and diligence that you've done on preparing for this particular site. I have every confidence with the cooperation of our police department and their review of the final security plan that this will be a great addition to the city of Dekalb.
People don't realize it, but we actually like to focus on, we had two, in our last round of applications, 2 different dispensaries within 2 blocks of a police department. We think it's a wonderful influence. And this is a block and a half, if I remember correctly. The Finns have been marvelous. It's been a very enjoyable experience, and we're looking forward to coming to Dekalb if you deem fit.
Thank you. Alderman McAdams.
My residents are curious how soon you'll be open.
It's a great question. And the state has just thrown us a curve. This isn't public information yet, but there's a memo circulating that the state is not ready to announce as we had hoped. At the end of this week, it was supposed to be May 1st. So we may be off a couple of months, which means it's a fall opening rather than a early Q3 opening. But the states have other issues, and everybody understands the priorities. It will happen when it happens, hopefully not delayed more than a calendar quarter.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Mayor?
Yes, Alderman Smith.
Mayor?
Alderman Smith.
Yeah, my biggest I'm here, Mayor. My biggest concern I've been hearing is location. I thought we were really keeping it away from NIU and our populous commercial development areas. That's been what I've been hit with the most. I agree with the plan. I agree with the concept. It's just the location I have issues with. How soon, I guess my question is, how soon is the state and how many number of licenses is the city of DeKalb going to get, if any? I mean, we're not sure of that. Is that correct?
So you're in a multi-county area that covers all the way out to the Iowa border. I believe there are 3 dispensaries that could be awarded, not including the medical that was never awarded initially 5 years ago. That doesn't mean 3 would be coming to DeKalb, right? It's 6, 8, 10 counties. I do believe there's a high likelihood that DeKalb attracts more than 1 license, but you can't say.
Yeah, I've heard 3 to
Thank you.
5. 3 to 5, but that's what I've heard, so.
And as to the location, I know Bill and I had this discussion up front. You were very careful in limiting where things could be, and I think it's a good design you have.
Right.
This site fits. There are only a couple of slivers in different areas where it fits, and we carefully measured distances from residential. And then the question was, is a commercial mall owner or receptive to it? And that's where I say the Finns have been really remarkable. They were very forward-thinking and very flexible.
Yeah.
And so we were gratefully acknowledge that, but, we believe we're a good neighbor. As I mentioned, in the other areas, it's been a fantastic experience, and we're expanding and growing in those areas, hoping to open more than one, probably 4 to 7 dispensaries, if we're so fortunate here in the next 6 months, and DeKalb would be one of the ideal spots for that.
I certainly respect Alderman Smith's opinion regarding the proximity to Northern, but I know that our Dan Olson from our principal planner in the city, I mean, he vetted this very, very well, and we are well without or outside of the minimum number of feet from a campus, and I think from a positive side, being near a campus. And I think I heard during the public hearing that you said about half of your anticipated customer base will probably be non-university students. They will be professors and other professionals. So, I am fully supportive of this. Any further questions or discussion? Roll call, please.
McAdams.
Yes.
Verbic.
Yes.
Favor.
Yes.
Morris.
Yes.
Fanouken.
Yes.
Smith.
No.
Perkins.
Yes.
Mayor Smith.
Yes.
7 ayes, 1 nay.
Is there a desire to waive second reading and approve this ordinance?
I'd make a motion to waive second reading and approve the ordinance. Excuse me.
Second.
It's been moved by Alderman McAdams, seconded by Alderman Verbeek, that we waive second reading and approve this ordinance. Any discussion? Roll call.
Verbic.
Yes.
Favor.
Yes.
Morris.
Yes.
Fanouken.
Yes.
Smith.
No.
Perkins.
Yes.
McAdams.
Yes.
Mayor Smith.
Yes.
7 ayes, 1 nay.
Thank you. That ordinance is approved.
Thank you all very much.
You're welcome. Yeah, thank you.
Consideration. Thank you.
Number 6, ordinance 2020-030, establishing an active special service area for Market Square, SSA 29. I'd entertain a motion, please.
So moved.
No move.
It's been moved by Alderman Smith, seconded by Alderman Verbeek. City Manager Nicholas, please.
The council's aware that we've been at this for a while, first with a lot of complaints in recent years about the condition of the principal drives in this particular shopping area, and we've tried firstly with cajoling and pleading, and because this is a private area, we weren't able to use our city crews to go in and make repairs. And at different times, one or more of the lot owners have taken care of their piece, but usually that means they go to the middle, and then maybe the other side is done, or maybe it's not. If you've been out there, I was just out there today, just to take an eyeful, and it's a dangerous place to travel in the main entry now. So the council back in January was unanimous in its support for an ordinance to establish a special service area encompassing that whole Market Square shopping center. On February 24th, there was a public hearing as provided by state statute. At that point, we invited anybody who has taxable property in this market area to be heard. No one spoke, And then, according to state statute, if within 60 days following the adjournment of that public hearing, 51% of the electors, property owners, within the proposed SSA sign a petition objecting to the formation of the area, then it can't go forward. No such petition has been received. Accordingly, we're asking you to follow through and impose the special service area, which will be known as SSA 29 on the Market Square Shopping Center. And if you approve, the way it will work this year is a little different than the way it will work every year hereafter. We missed the levy season, but we're coming up on it, and that would help us in 2021. But we intend to try to be fairly good stewards within the limited resources, especially more limited now in the last 6 weeks that we have to spend on such things as pothole filling. But we'll intend to do what can be done in a minimal way, and then starting next year with a levy, we'll have the resources, which they will pay, the property owners in this special service area, for a reasonable program of improvements. And those have to be vetted by our city engineer, presented to the council and voted on and so forth, and we are required to be judicious and reasonable in the identification of what that is. We have, as you see in the background, a rough idea of what that next year's budget is going to be. This has been very public. We assume and the parcel owners have all been notified in writing about where we're heading, so I feel they know what we're doing, and I think they've, by their absence or silence, have decided this is a better deal than what they could find for themselves. So we ask your support.
You know, I think as in a response to the public outcry about the condition of those roads, we made the right decision in January. And I guess I'm just really surprised that we heard nothing in that 60-day window after that public hearing. But as you suggest, City Manager Nicholas, perhaps they figure this is the best way that this could be rectified. So, any further discussion? Alderman Verbeek?
Is this something that we look at in the future to just include with developments? In other words, could this simplify development so that everyone knows, how will these services or repairs be funded? How will this maintenance be funded? Certainly we would hope that any future development, that property owner would want the access lanes to be well maintained and very safe for customers to drive upon. But I think that this idea is something that we should consider in the future as those opportunities would arrive. Also, is this a tool, for example, we struggle and we're going to be struggling even more with our upcoming budget. Is this a tool that we should consider for the central business district, for example? In other words, we've got snow removal and all kinds of assorted services that certainly our central business district is reliant upon from a standpoint of getting businesses open and accessible quickly when it snows, and otherwise just keeping those areas clean. Is that a viable consideration for our central business district to help fund those things?
It's been done in other places. It's something that can be considered, certainly. We'll see what kind of impact this year has on downtown businesses and however we describe the downtown, from these limits to those limits. Certainly the imposition of another property tax layer on top of what they're paying now, or which they'll be pressed to pay in some cases, is going to be a consideration for them. And we'll have to have everybody will have to be engaged. We'll have to have a very, very energetic conversation probably on those points. But it's a public policy question and deserves to be heard.
Alderman Verbeek?
Can I chime in?
Yes, Alderman Morris.
I just wanted to respond to Alderman Verbeek's comments. I think what we'd be looking at in the future, if we were to consider doing that with new developments, I think we're looking at certain clear trade-offs for developers. And so I guess my position would be that I wouldn't be interested in putting that into the code per se. I think it's certainly something to take into consideration as we develop, agreements with corporations. But at the same time, just like the city manager just noted, that's that extra layer of property tax. And so it really depends on how aggressive we're trying to be with getting new businesses in, if we want to introduce barriers like that to having them. But at the same time, I feel like we could write it in to the agreement sort of as a fallback plan if they don't take care of things, and maybe in that way have it as an automatic thing that happens if they don't take care of their property, rather than something that starts right off the bat.
Thank you, Alderman Morris. Alderman Verbeek first, and then Alderman Favor.
In speaking to our SSA and our subdivision in the Knolls, it's been around for many, many years, and what we've noticed, though, is with it, the cost level or the investment level has remained the same, although what's happened over the years is the cost of services has increased. So I would be interested in how we can look over these SSAs to make sure that they are increased, whether it's CPI or whatever level of percentage we look at, just to make sure that these SSAs keep up with the cost of doing business.
That's a good point.
Alderman Favor?
Yeah, so as First Ward Alderman Morris was stating, I'm in favor. I think the city's done a great job with the latest development agreements that we've had. Again, putting it in, not starting out with an SSA, but as maybe a fallback, as a protection for the taxpayers of Dekalb, so that, if a developer is going to come in and build a new shopping center and they choose not to fall back on the SSA, they take care of their roads, they do things, and at some point in the future, this was in the development agreement, that should they not take care of the roads, we would step in and do that. I was curious too, is why would they not come forward? And I don't know if it's just we have better purchasing, better negotiation. I can't believe government always does the best, but I don't mean to.
We try our best.
we are government.
Do we do our best? I don't know.
Yeah.
We certainly talked to a number of the property owners. All of them, without exception, one form or another, either the local manager or somebody up the corporate chain, in the process of the last year and almost a year and a half. And some were fairly candid in those conversations, saying, we ought to do something, we know that, but right now we're not interested in doing the other side of the road, we'll do our part. And the roads look like that coat of many colors, lots of patches and so forth. That's not the final solution, but it helped. But they pop and they go, and right now they're gone. So I think the SSAs work in developments where there are public facilities and public infrastructure, and in a contained development area where that's not the case. I don't think that that's something we ought to be doing, but. So I agree that this is a conversation that's got some legs. In existing SSAs, as you're describing, Alderman Verbeek, I think it behooves us, before we come to you with a levy proposition, that the city engineer has a chance to look at what it is we're getting for this money, and that we need to sharpen the pencil and see. We're not going to be coming down with a heavy hammer, but as Alderman Morris said, we want to do the right thing without beggaring the neighbors or the entity that has the SSA.
Someone told me that they saw on one of the blogs in town that some of the potholes were so large that you could fit Mayor Smith into one. I mean,
I think that's an exaggeration, Mayor.
So it was unbelievable. So unbelievable what we read on blogs too. So Alderman Favor, and then Alderman McAdams.
And a lighter side, I will say, it almost felt.
How do you
like I
follow
had-
that up? Yeah.
I did feel like I had to put, we were out visiting Lowe's, and I felt like I had to put the car in, 4 low,
Yeah.
go off-roading, just to get back to 23. We mentioned this at the last council meeting as well. I think for new developments as well, that we start looking at parking restriction, or parking requirements, and reducing the size of our parking lots, which may make newer development more attractive, less for a business to have to maintain that large parking space that is roughly 90% unused. I heard a stat, or read a stat, that there's 8 parking spots for every car in the United States. So it's just wasted space. Yeah, I think it would be good to also start working on that as well. Thank you.
Alderman McAdams.
I have to,
Carolyn, let's have Alderman McAdams, and then we'll come back to you.
I think it bears mentioning that on behalf of a relieved populace who have been very vocal in their complaints about this situation, that we have found a resolution and have finally moved forward to take care of this. And my hat's off to city staff for putting that together. And I think the residents will be very happy.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman McAdams. Alderman Morris.
yes, I just have to echo what Alderman Favor said. I couldn't agree more. I think reducing the parking requirements and reviewing that whole code would be really good, and absolutely could allow us to broaden our tax base by bringing in some more businesses. So that's really exciting, and it may be beneficial to current businesses as they sort of farm out parcels of their lands that they don't necessarily need to have, and it's probably not great for the environment either. So that's all.
Any other
Mayor?
discussion or questions?
Mayor?
Yes, Alderman Smith.
For Mr. Nicholas, real quick, I know we talked about the roads extensively. How about some of the lighting that borders the roadways that are in disarray?
This just covers the
Is that covered under
roadways.
this bill?
Just covers the roadways.
Should cover, Bill, thank you. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Smith. Any other questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Favor,
Yes.
Morris,
Yes.
Fanouken,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Perkins,
Yes.
McAdams,
Yes.
Verbic,
Yes.
Mayor Smith,
Yes.
8 ayes.
That motion passes on first reading.
We would recommend that we go to second reading. We've got
Does
some
anyone
potholes
care?
we'd like to fill.
I will move that we waive second reading and approve.
Second.
It's been moved by Alderman Fanouken and seconded by Alderman McAdams that we waive second reading and approve this ordinance. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Morris,
Yes.
Fanouken,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Perkins,
Yes.
McAdams,
Yes.
Verbic,
Yes.
Favor,
Yes.
Mayor Smith,
Yes.
8 ayes.
Thank you. That ordinance is approved. Finally, our final ordinance of the evening is ordinance number 2020-018, amending Chapter 38, intoxicating liquors, Section 38.07, classifications of liquor licenses, by adding license classification auditorium and amending Section 38.08, term of licenses and license fees. And notation, this was postponed from the March 23rd regular meeting. I'd entertain a motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Alderman Favor, seconded by Alderman Perkins. City Manager Nicholas, please.
Very briefly, the ordinance before you tonight defines a new liquor license, as the mayor said in the title, and this will serve the unique characteristics, and I'll say this is a little disingenuous, an entertainment venues such as the Egyptian Theater, although it well describes the Egyptian Theater. There are a number of things that we've been working collaboratively on to refine this, and I think the extra work has been fruitful. The ordinance before you tonight addresses a concern. It's really a competitive disadvantage that the Egyptian has to many of its comparable venues in northern Illinois, which are having wine and cheese and well, just for performances of the ability to serve alcoholic beverages. What happens now is that the Egyptian has to basically tag on to another local bar or restaurant and ask them, can we use that one-day event license, and that's okay, but it's as if they're second-class citizen. Let's we've just invested pretty heavily in this institution, and we'd sure like to support them. So we at the staff level are very supportive of this. The specifics are identified in your background. There aren't going to be package sales coming out of the Egyptian or such a venue. The sales will occur in the public areas where the general public can be seen and that people can be carded if necessary and so forth. The sale will occur within a period of time that coincides with the beginning of an event, which doesn't always open at 7 o'clock at night. Sometimes it could be in the afternoon. And then ends 30 minutes before the end of the event, so people aren't grabbing 2 or 3 drinks on their way out the door, which obviously they couldn't get very far with under our other codes and ordinances. The containers that serve the alcohol have to be very clearly distinguishable from others. Patron can only be served 2 drinks at a time. This is typical in other venues of this sort, where you've got an intermission or time between acts, and you run down and you want to buy for the row and you want to get 6, whatever. You can't do that, just in case you're going to go get 6 and go in the men's room and do something. I mentioned the carding, and obviously no alcoholic beverages can be taken beyond the premises. We support this. We hope you will too. If you do, we'll bring back a specific action for you at the next regular meeting, which will allow the license to be issued to the Egyptian Theater.
Thank you. Alderman Fanouken.
Bill, if I may, a question. How does this differ from the license that we have issued to the Convocation Center, other than the number of seats that's allowed under this
That's
exemption?
basically it, Bill. Yeah, I mean, that's a big, obviously, at 10,000, is that?
10,000 max, yeah. I mean, I don't recall though when we voted on them that there was a size limitation.
Well, that's the key. I mean, it comes to mind. The way it's written right now, it defines the combo, basically. And
Okay.
what this does is define other venues. Now, it's not beyond possibility there'd be somebody would come in and build that, but it's very unlikely, and it's probably going to be for the Egyptian. That's it.
All right, thank you.
Alderman Verbeek.
Yeah, this looks great. The exception is number 5 in the backup. Number 5 in the backup says, there shall be no more than 1 auditorium liquor license in the city of DeKalb. And I would say that it's become more common that movie auditoriums and other auditoriums do sell and offer alcoholic beverages. So I guess, is that something you would look for me to make a motion to strike? Or would that come back next time? Or could that come back next time?
I think we could bring back something different. Well, I'm not an expert on a large complex, movie theater complex. I don't know if they're gaining ground or losing ground. I think they're possibly losing ground because of all the movies you can get on TV now. But I'd like to look at basically just take a breath, look at what the universe of those entities is, and maybe have a special license just for that, and let people, the public, comment on that, whether, because there'd be, I don't know, arguably that there'd be more children in those, but maybe, certain times, and what do you do, and mixing events and things, because if you have 6 theaters and one's playing a Disney film and one's playing, an R-rated film, you're going to have a mix of publics, but I think it's more likely at the Egyptian you're having, you've got one type of event going on at one time. So I'd like to come in maybe with a separate proposition for those, if that's how you want to proceed.
Sure, and to piggyback on NIU uses, certainly the Duke Ellington Ballroom could be another, or is another location where alcohol is served. I'm not sure what other auditoriums on campus could be used for a special event, but just keeping that in mind.
Yeah,
Can I speak?
Absolutely, Alderman Morris. Alderman Morris.
Thank you. I was thinking along the same lines of Alderman Verbeek. The first thing that came to mind was, yes, I visit movie theaters that are outside of the DeKalb area that have alcohol served at them, and I would love to see this also apply to those places. I think I could probably send the city manager, a link of what places specifically I'm talking about, and then I'm sure we could build something from there. But I was also thinking of where else on NIU this could apply, and I wonder, what the number of seats are at the movie theater, and if we could kind of make it so that the movie theater could be included in this. It seems like a very common thing now, and yeah, that's all.
Thank you, Alderman Morris. Any further comments or questions? Okay, we have a motion and a second on the floor. Roll call, please.
Finucane.
Yes.
Smith.
Yes.
Perkins.
Yes.
McAdams.
Yes.
Verbeek.
Yes.
Favor.
Yes.
Morris.
Yes.
Mayor Smith.
Yes.
8 ayes.
Any alderman care to move that we waive second reading and approve this?
I think, didn't the city manager indicate they want to bring something back on this?
Not on this. I'm thinking, and the council may direct otherwise, but I'm thinking that the consideration of the movie theater needs a little more thought, and that'll probably be a separate wing to our liquor code.
All right, so then I will move to waive second reading and approve.
Second.
It's been moved by Alderman Finucane, seconded by Alderman Verbeek, that we waive second reading on this ordinance proposal
I guess I'd like to discuss that.
and approve. Okay, further discussion. Yes, Carolyn Morris.
Yeah, I just think it feels fairly redundant to do this twice, and to approve this one and then do a separate ordinance that's going to apply to movie theaters. I understand that the city manager is trying to be cautious and respectful, but this seems like we're going to do the same thing twice, and we're talking about comparing the Egyptian theater to like what I'm trying to compare, and what I believe Alderman Verbeek was trying to also compare, was the Egyptian theater and a movie theater. And I feel like perhaps the perspective of a movie theater is that maybe it's not as classy of an establishment, and so therefore we think it needs its own separate ordinance or perhaps more caution. But there are also children's events at the Egyptian theater. So I think it's highly redundant to do this twice and to make separate ordinances for extremely similar locations. That's all.
Alderman Verbeek.
Is there any hurry to this?
Well, we've been at this for a couple months, and but I think the main point is timing is important. I know that Alex is sitting in the background. They've been struggling. Hopefully, at the end of this month, we'll be able to think about some events that will coincide with the opening of the new theater. But apart from that, I think this is not that similar to, we only have 2 complexes in the city. We had more, and there's one that's being supported by some 2x10s over at Blackhawk and Hillcrest that's not serving anybody. I'm not concerned about the classiness. I'm concerned about the mix of the events. Because every one of, I mean, I pointed out earlier, every one of the movies you'll see in the 6-plex, 7-plex, 8-plex, and I don't for like me remember how many are in the Market Square complex right now, frankly. But you could have a real mix of age groups and people coming into the same general lobby, some of them to buy whiskey and beer and, you know, whatever, wine, whatever, and people running between theaters on a nice Saturday where you've got younger people going to a couple movies, you know. I think we need to give that more thought before we move ahead on that.
Yeah, what I see here is I'd hate to postpone this. I mean, there was unanimous approval on first reading, and I think the argument that Alderman Morris is making is that why be redundant and why have to do this over? But I'd hate to see us lollygag around and lose traction on behalf of the Egyptian Theater. And as our city manager suggests, we've been looking at this. So, you know, I would fully support waiving second reading and approving this tonight. Alderman Verbeek?
When is the ETA for the Egyptian opening? Not to put you on the spot.
You know, it can't open while we have the governor's order in place, so it'll be June, maybe.
Yeah, Alex Nerad, the Executive Director of the Egyptian Theater, is here with us and walking up to the podium. Alex?
Yeah, good evening. At this point, purely construction-wise, not looking at state regulations and CDC and all that going on right now. Construction-wise, we're hoping by the end of May to be in a position to be ready for events. Our big rush right now would be once the city approves this ordinance to actually then get the license approved, and then we have to apply through the state, and we have to get all of our accounts set up with vendors. So we have a bit of a process to go through before we can even get to that point. So we want to make sure that when we do get on the other side of the current global issue, that we are in a position to hit the ground running.
So do I hear you saying that waiving second reading and approving this ordinance tonight would be advantageous to the Egyptian Theater?
That is certainly our desire, so we can continue to move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments or questions? Alderman Perkins.
How quickly or how could we go about leaving the door open for the other theater and not necessarily slow down the progress here with the Egyptian? Is there a way of meeting in the middle on this?
Oh, yeah, I mean, well, when we're having this conversation, this is what I'm thinking. We have a liquor code which is worse than a Byzantine tract. It has so many layers. Talk about redundancy. We have bars that sell packaged goods. We have bars that are restaurants. We have, you know, I could go on. And in the restaurants themselves, there are 7 different layers of that. We need to go in and with a blower and just basically start all over again. And time is frankly the only challenge that we have there, to be able to do it thoughtfully, just as we really should be doing the UDO, as people said earlier, and parking and all the rest of that. So we're working our way through these entitlement ordinances. In this case, it hurts nothing to approve this tonight. If we decide we want to roll everything else into it, it's there, the template's there, we just do it and change a few of the paragraphs and we're done. If we hold them up, we have to now take some time to think through, probably a couple meetings at least, what we're about here, do some, gather some information from the people who actually own these places. Did they want alcohol in them before we enact something? I don't know. We haven't talked to them. So, and then what would be the prescriptive things that we'd like them to consider? So I just think time is on our side, actually. Let's help the Egyptian get going, and then we can amend this. It'd be probably easier to amend this than come up with a separate class, which I'll admit, I think Alderman Morris had a better idea there, but at this point, we don't have enough information on the other, I think, to proceed.
Bill, if I may, I've been in several discussions with various large movie theaters over the years. In many of them, most of them view their future as not being just movie with alcohol, but movie with a meal and alcohol, which is a far different thing. You need to change all your seating, you need to have a kitchen, so there's a lot more involved than just having alcohol. At least those are discussions I've had with most of the large movie theaters over the last several years. I think they view that they have to compete with Netflix. When I was young, you go to dinner, then you go to the movie. Nowadays, people can go to dinner, then just go home. You don't have to worry about the whole timing issue and watch it on Netflix. So I think that's where most of the larger movie theaters are heading in that direction. From my experience, is the movie with the dinner and the alcohol.
For the benefit of those meeting remotely, that was John Donahue, our legal counsel, one of our attorneys, with his opinion on this.
May I chime in?
Absolutely. Carolyn Morris.
Yes, I understand the timeliness of this now regarding the Egyptian theater, and so I am happy to support waiving second reading and moving forward with this tonight so that we can move forward with everything. And I agree, as the city manager said, we need a full overhaul when the time comes.
Thank you, Alderman Morris. Any further discussion? We have a motion on the floor, a second, to waive second reading and approve this ordinance 2020-023. Roll call, please.
Smith,
Yes.
Perkins,
Yes.
McAdams,
Yes.
Verbic,
Yes.
Favor,
Yes.
Morris,
Yes.
Fanouken,
Yes.
Mayor Smith,
Yes.
8 ayes.
That completes our action on ordinances tonight. Prior to going back to considerations and resolutions, I would like to speak to something that I could have as we completed the last Ventus proposal tonight. But I learned earlier this afternoon that the Ventus folks may very well be prepared to begin pre-construction activities as early as tomorrow. And so I've asked our city clerk, Lynn Fazekas, to either consider coming in or we can get the documents to her. I will be in a position tomorrow to come in and sign those documents, and we'll be asking our city clerk, Lynn Fazekas, to consider coming in and signing those documents. So I wanted to mention that to you before we move out of the ordinances section of the agenda. So with that, let's move on. Let's move back to considerations. We are now on item I on the agenda, considerations. Consideration of a revised staff proposal for street maintenance in the city of DeKalb in fiscal year 2020. City Manager Nicholas, please.
It's a lot of work tonight.
There is a lot of good stuff, though.
Yeah. The bids for the 2020 street maintenance program, as you know, were presented to you last time. We had a really good discussion about where we stand and what is the most reasonable program to have in light of the fact that revenues are dropping, and although that may or may not necessarily impact the capital side, people are looking for some action that is maybe a little more conservative as we look at this year. And so you directed me to come back with something. I've done that. I for the benefit of the people reading the agenda for the first time or tackling this topic for the first time, I reprinted what the budget shows for this year, and then also made reference to the fact that the lowest responsible bid came from a company that was about $170-some thousand higher than that, not because they were bidding wildly, but because the budget is a starting point. We have reasonable engineering estimates, and then we do the field work, and sometimes you come up and there's more layers, and also there were a couple of other streets we threw in there. So where are we at now? At the top of page 4 in your background, I presented you with a program that's about $1 million program, rather than $1.5 million program. The hallmark of it would be in 2020 North 7th Street, not quite the full length of 7th Street going, say, down to Taylor, but basically going from Lincoln Highway north to Sycamore Road. That's under $500,000. There is a strip of normal road from Hillcrest to Ridge that's in terrible shape. We just can't patch it enough at this point. There's some minor work to be done on Palmer Court, which we have planned on as related to the Egyptian project. And then Macomb Drive, we went down and did some borings and so forth. We're going to have to do a little more than we thought there. Various alleys. This is a really trimmed down alley schedule, but it will attack the worst, and that list is very long. Unfortunately, there are some alleys that have been kind of patched, kind of built up, so that as you're driving down them, you risk your car's undercarriage because you're kind of bottoming out on the crown, which is exaggerated because we just threw some asphalt down on top. They were never really graded out and properly paved. So, and then there's engineering that goes with it. So that's how we got to $990,000. We've recommended to you that the remainder of what we had budgeted sits in the reserve for Fund 400, and we also gave you a couple options that in either case would require the rejection of the resolution that was before you last time. One approach, which would be more time-consuming, is go out, rebid. The second approach, which we've talked to Mr. Donahue about, is to waive the bidding requirement by a supermajority. We've been doing some of the supermajorities tonight. Negotiate a budget price with the low bidder from the March 4th opening and get to what we've proposed here in the chart on page 4, which is about $1 million, slightly less than $1 million program. That would hopefully, we'll see how we are in the winter and late winter and early spring, put us in a position to pick up a couple of the streets that we had to take off, the 13th and 14th Street improvements, and also the Taylor Street work that we had talked about, and incorporate that with a First Street project that would go part of the way up First Street toward the tracks, not all the way to the tracks. And that would pretty much eat up our budget for next year, a comparable budget, maybe just a little bit more. As you know, we're not gaining ground on our streets, and we could be spending $3.5 million a year, and we'd just be holding our own. We wouldn't be getting ahead by any means. So there's no way to catch up if you don't just gut it out and spend some money on this type of work, because it's going to be more expensive next year, unfortunately. It's not going to be cheaper, even though oil is way down, and it will help in our negotiation, frankly. It's not likely to be that far down this time next year. If it is, we're all in deeper trouble. Thank you. So we recommend option B.
So Bill, if what you're asking is if we approve option B, which is scaling back to about $1 million, $990,000.
Yes, sir.
We would then correlatively be asked to disapprove the next two resolutions.
Correct.
Which we had looked at initially based on the initial bids. Is that correct?
That's correct. And then if you choose to go in that direction, we'll need a supermajority to then go to the lowest bidder and negotiate the final budget. Point out that the price of oil has gone down since this was bid.
Okay, so what I would need is a motion, if an alderman is disposed to do so, is to look at option B, waive the bidding requirement by a supermajority, and negotiate a budget price with the apparent low bidder from the March 4 bid opening in the range of the estimates with a not-to-exceed price of $1 million that includes a modest $10,000 contingency. Do I have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Alderman Fanouken, seconded by Alderman Perkins. Any further discussion? Alderman Verbeek.
Is there any issue with taking action on an item that's on our agenda simply for consideration?
We're trying to expedite, so, John, do you have a problem with this?
Final action. We're not taking any final action, we're just going to bring it back. We'll bring it back. If you give us a sense of the body, as the mayor described, and yes, we'll be there to support a budget of about this amount. We go back and negotiate. We bring back a resolution that asks you to adopt a new contract at a different price. In the meantime, tonight, the two follow-on
Welcome to
items
the audio conferencing center.
are
Enter a conference ID followed by pound.
Nice job, Jeff. Anyway, we have to take care of the next two resolutions while we're at it tonight. But yeah, so sense of the body, if you're all nodding, and I think we'll go with that. Bring it
Okay.
back. Okay.
Our technology guru tonight is Jeff Bertel, and he very quickly told me that we have lost the connection to two of our aldermen, and we're getting those back. Is that
Okay.
right, Jeff? Okay, we're going to get those back.
Virtually, how do we can't see the nods of our two council members who are absent, so we should probably hear from them.
Oh, absolutely. That's what we're doing. We need a supermajority, which in this case is how many yes votes?
And then press pound.
Well, that's 2/3, but we'll bring that back to you in the form of the new resolution to adopt a contract for $1 million with current, let's say if it works out.
Okay,
current
so we don't
contract.
need that 2/3.
No, I just want you to know,
supermajority tonight.
this is two paths you can follow, and that one.
Oh, I
is
see.
gonna
So
be-
you simply
yeah.
want
Yeah.
an idea of whether or not there's some consensus on option B.
Correct.
All right, so then I should withdraw my motion.
Yes, that's what I was trying to get at was.
Yeah, I was
this
trying to
really
get
wasn't
this
set up
approved
for a roll
tonight,
call
Bill, but-
vote.
I know, I appreciate, but we still have to go back and see if there's not a Mr. anymore, if current contracting is.
Okay, very good.
Okay.
Alderman Smith and Alderman Morris and City Clerk Fazekas, are you all there now?
Followed by pound.
All right, well,
Okay.
while we have some dead time, let me ask a question on the next two resolutions that we're going to be talking about. Do we need to reject them affirmatively? In other words, can we just, if somebody makes a motion, can we just let them die without a second?
Sorry,
Okay.
I can't find a meeting with that number.
These,
Try entering your conference
uh,
ID again.
probably 30 days from the time, we're already past that.
I mean, that would save us some time.
After the tone, please record your name.
On the other hand, if
then
they
press
just vote,
pound.
we know that it's done, goodbye. Otherwise, we have to rely on the minutes to know what you did.
You are now
All right, well then, let's do them at the same time
Yeah,
then.
yeah, we could do that.
Alderman Morris, are you back with us?
This meeting is being recorded and/or transcribed.
Yes, it is.
Alderman Morris, are you with us?
Yes, now I'm here.
Okay.
Thanks.
Uh,
I have a question, of course.
Just a moment. Alderman Smith, are you with us?
Yes.
Okay, and City Clerk Fazekas, are you with us? City Clerk Fazekas, are you with us this evening? Okay, we're going to have to find someone who can do a roll call.
I think Ruth is still here.
I beg your pardon? Okay,
think Ruth is
okay,
still
Ruth
here.
Scott is still here. And Jeff, are you still trying to get City Clerk Fazekas
Yes.
back on the line?
Sounds like she's there now.
City Clerk Fazekas, are you back with us? Okay, very good. Ruth Scott is with us.
Thank you, Ruth.
And we'll be able to take the roll call.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, is that, Lynn, is that you?
Yes.
Okay, good. Our city clerk is back with us. Our third ward alderman, Tracy Smith, is back with us, and first ward alderman, Carolyn Morris. Sorry to lose you folks there for just a short time. You've all still got your posts, so don't worry about it now. Okay, what we had was a discussion on item I, considerations, and our city manager, Mr. Nicholas, is simply asking whether or not his recommendation of option B, which would retrench our street maintenance program to something just short of $1 million, be given consensus, at which time he would bring that option back for our approval. So, for those of you here, there seem to be consensus that we do that?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
Okay, is there consensus? Greg, is there consensus from you? Okay.
Yep.
Alderman Morris and Alderman Smith, is there consensus that makes sense at this point?
Yes.
I'm sorry, that what makes sense?
That consensus on option
recommendation
B
you've got there?
under the street maintenance program, number one, under considerations, I-1, and our city manager is simply looking for a consensus that option B, which would be waiving the bidding requirement, which would take a supermajority once we have a ordinance before us, and negotiate a budget price with the apparent low bidder from the March 4 bid opening in the range of estimates with a not-to-exceed price of $1 million. And so far, I've got...
Yes, I support...
Is that okay? Would you concur with that at this point?
Yes, I support option B there, the waiving of the bidding.
Okay, good.
And the lower price, and I did want to thank the city manager for being proactive on reducing the budget expenses.
Okay, Bill, so if you've got clear consensus from this city council that we're comfortable with item B, talk to the current contracting folks, bring that back for our consideration, perhaps at our next meeting?
Will do.
Okay, good, because we need to take some action as best we can on some of the streets and the maintenance of those streets yet this year. Okay, so what we're being asked to, since we have consensus that option B under considerations is in fact the way we want to move forward, we're being asked to disapprove the next two resolutions, 2020-034 and 2020-035, which were tied into the original bid pricing. So let me go to resolution number 1, resolution 2020-034, authorizing the award of a bid to Curran Contracting Company in the amount of $1,573,616.64 for street resurfacing on 7th Street, 13th Street, and 14th Street, including various other minor segments, with staff authority to approve change orders up to a combined total of $1,600,000. We're asked to disapprove that, and I would entertain a motion to disapprove that resolution.
I'd like to move that we disapprove resolutions 2020-34 and -35 in one omnibus vote.
Everybody comfortable with the omnibus vote on both of those?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we disapprove both Resolution 2020-034 and 2020-035 pertaining to road maintenance in 2020, and that we ask our city manager and staff to bring option B under the considerations back to us at our next meeting.
Mayor?
Any?
The belt and suspenders
Mayor?
way to do this would be to first, by motion, create the
Mayor?
omnibus agenda.
Just a moment. One at a time. John, get that microphone down in front of you so we can hear you. And then Carolyn, we're going to hear right now from John Donahue.
Yeah, it's working now, thank you, Mayor. The way to appropriately create this would be to first do a motion to create the omnibus agenda, including items J1 and J2, and one motion, and then the next motion would be to then reject those items.
Or simply to take each one individually.
Right, either way.
Okay. Alderman Morris.
Are we getting back to the question I had?
What was your question, Carolyn?
This is for, we're still talking about the rebid or the waiving, right?
That is correct.
Okay, my question was, I do not see Twombly on either of these lists, and is that just on a different list somewhere? And is Twombly Road not affected?
It's not affected in this, and that's a good question. So there,
Okay.
there's a project that's going to start this year and go through next year. The county and the DeKalb Township Road Commissioner are working on the design for those Twombly upgrades that will ultimately lead to new sidewalk and paving and so forth. But this year will be the design, and because they have the money for that and we don't. And there may be some utility work toward the end of the year to get that out of the way, so next year, as the weather warms and the ground firms, they'll be able to do the paving. But that's where we are, and we're going to be in with the paving, and CDBG is going to help with that.
Great, thank you.
Okay, now, Alderman Fanouken, are you comfortable? How do you want to move forward?
As I understand our attorney's advice, and we need to separate those two, so I will change mine to read just for 2020-034.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we disapprove Resolution 2020-034. We have a motion on the floor and a second. Any further discussion?
Mayor?
Yes.
Mayor Smith?
Yes.
First of all, as I understand Mr. Donahue, you would need to have a motion on the floor for each of these resolutions to pass the resolution, but then vote no, that would be the proper procedure on this. The other thing is that the motion to disapprove both of them, I do not know who moved and who seconded on those, so I need some help with that, whether or not those get withdrawn.
Okay, let me try to reconstruct this as best I can. The decision to do both in omnibus form was moved by Alderman Fanouken and seconded by Alderman Verbeek. Based on the legal opinion of our attorney, John Donahue, that motion and second were withdrawn, at which time Alderman Fanouken, seconded by Alderman Verbeek, moved that we disapprove Resolution 2020-034 singly, and that is where we are at this point.
Mayor, there's a motion on the floor and a second to not approve Resolution 2020-034. I think the council can act without any further.
I simply wanted to make sure that our city clerk had a clear idea of what we were doing. So, any further discussion?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Perkins?
You have to vote yes, Greg.
Yes,
That was your question, yes to
Yes.
disapprove.
Yes, disapprove it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm having trouble with the audio. I'll start again. Alderman Perkins,
Yes.
McAdams,
Yes.
Verbic,
Yes.
Favor,
Yes.
Morris,
Yes.
Fanouken,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Mayor Smith,
Yes.
8 ayes.
That resolution is graciously tossed out and disapproved. Now, I would entertain a motion to disapprove 2020-035.
So moved.
Second.
Who moved? A motion was moved by Alderman Fanouken, seconded by Alderman Perkins. Any further discussion? Roll call.
McAdams,
Yes.
Verbic,
Yes.
Favor,
Yes.
Morris,
Yes.
Fanouken,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Perkins,
Yes.
Mayor Smith,
Yes.
8 ayes.
Thank you. Likewise, that resolution is disapproved. Okay, let's move along now to Resolution 2020-036, approving a restaurant and bar liquor license for Pete's Place Incorporated, doing business as Glidden Hill Grill at 930 Pappas Drive. Motion, please.
So moved.
Second?
It's been moved by Alderman McAdams, seconded by Alderman Favor. City Manager Nicholas, please.
Left the simplest one for last. We've got a responsible owner who wants a liquor license. Their application has been reviewed and received a positive recommendation from our liquor commissioner and our interim police chief. The owner successfully completed her background investigation, and we recommend approval of this resolution.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Verbic,
Yes.
Favor,
Yes.
I'm sorry, there was a crash.
Yes.
I did not hear.
That crash was somewhere between Chief Petrogallo and City Attorney Donahue, but there were no injuries, and we
No
could,
arrests.
we could
Yeah.
proceed with the roll call. Where were we?
I was waiting for Alderman Favor.
Yes.
Morris,
Yes.
Fanouken,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Perkins,
Yes.
McAdams,
Yes.
Mayor Smith,
Yes,
8 ayes.
that resolution is approved. And to our visitors in the room with us tonight, have you ever been to a more exciting city council meeting? We've had a little bit of everything tonight. I believe we've gotten through, we've juxtaposed a few of the things around, but I think we got through it. So now we move to reports and communications. This allows each of our city council members to report anything they'd like to communicate, along with our city clerk and our city manager. First of all, our first ward alderman, Carolyn Morris.
Thank you, Mayor. Just briefly, I wanted to share that on my Facebook page, I'm beginning to share information, interviews with nonprofit leaders in the community. So I just wanted to share that and put that out there if people want to view what some of the resources are, if they have needs. My first interview was just with Dawn Littlefield, and we were just trying to underscore the value of the resource phone number 211, so that if anyone has any need, they can call 211, and at that number, you can be connected with any resource that you need for any reason. Thank you, that's all.
You know, Carolyn, I've been so impressed with the outpouring of support and the desire to collaborate and communicate amongst the nonprofits, and I applaud your efforts in this regard, so thank you very much. Okay, Second Ward Alderman Bill Fanouken.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple things, if I may. Tonight's final approval of the Ventus project is a culmination of work of many individuals and organizations. I'm sure I'm going to leave somebody out. Please forgive me. The city's taxing body partners are 2 state representatives, Jerry Krasinski and the Chicago West Business Park, DC, EDC, the city attorney, the mayor, and city staff have all put a tremendous coordinated effort to land this great project. But one individual truly has shouldered the yeoman's share of this load of the Ventus project, and for our city manager has toiled endlessly for the citizens of DeKalb and this city council. This one alderman's appreciation is scant thanks for the effort he has put forth. Bill, thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
All right, additionally, Thursday next week, May 7th, is Give DeKalb County 2020 Day. There are 111 nonprofits and endowment funds that could use your help. Please give as you are able. And then, just as I've said the last couple of meetings, with the continuing COVID-19 health crisis, please wash your hands, social distance, stay home as able, but when you need to be out and about, please wear your mask and/or face cover. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Fanouken. Third Ward Alderman Tracy Smith.
No report, Mayor.
Greg Perkins, our Fourth Ward Alderman.
So in an upcoming meeting or Kyle, are we going to be looking in greater depth into our revenue forecast and corresponding expense forecasts as well?
Coming soon, coming to the next meeting on May 11th. And we're going to spend time in the committee of the whole to have more than adequate time to deal with that, and also going to be picking up, if time permits, the towing ordinance. But I think the fiscal condition is paramount right now. So if we use up that whole hour and then some, it'll be time well served. So we'll be prepared.
Okay.
Meeting
fantastic.
with different city groups between now and then, and looking forward to that opportunity.
Fantastic. And I'll echo Bill's thanks.
Thanks.
Big kudos for this outstanding effort.
Thanks.
Thank you, Alderman Perkins. And yes, we have to do the best job we possibly can early on here, knowing that we're not knowing what the situation with COVID is going to be, but try to take a handle on revenues, expenses, budget. I was on a conference call today with our 16th state representative, or at 16th congressional representative Adam Kinzinger, and just, a number of mayors were on there, and I think we were all trying to reiterate what Brad Cole from the Illinois Municipal League was saying, and that is that we need some direct and unrestricted assistance from the federal government as small municipalities, because some of the CARES Act legislation dealt with communities of over 500,000 population. Well, we have 1,298 communities within this state, and we need help. And so, Bill, I appreciate your response to Alderman Perkins' question, and I think we're all looking forward to see what what our situation is going to be fiscally. Alderman McAdams, 5th Ward.
No report.
Alderman Verbeek, 6th Ward.
Mayor, let's recognize DeKalb's very own Jordan Glasgow, Michigan linebacker, drafted in the NFL's 6th round by the Indianapolis Colts. He joins his brothers, Graham and Ryan, who both also excelled at Michigan and were also selected in the NFL draft. Congratulations to the Glasgow family.
Very good. Anything else, Mike?
No.
Alderman Tony Favor, 7th Ward.
I'll just echo the kudos, Bill. Thank you very much, and nothing else to report.
As City Council knows, we're continuing to do whatever we can to assist our small businesses in their efforts to keep the doors open. Last week, I received a call from Tom Schmidt at Hometown Sports requesting permission to sell prepackaged bottles of liquor similar to kits being marketed by others, including our friends at Fatty's. Upon checking with one of our attorneys, Matt Rose, I was told that as liquor commissioner, I do have the authority to provide permission to restaurants to include sealed, prepackaged bottles of liquor along with beer and wine, provided a corresponding order of food is part of that package. Tonight, I wanted to inform you as alderman and the public to know of the action I have taken to Mr. Schmidt, and would appreciate your consensus to continue without creating or amending an ordinance. So I'm just looking for some consensus. Does that make sense, what I'm doing?
Yeah.
Okay, very good. Thank you very, very much. And finally, the food supply situation in our country and in our region has been talked about considerably. I got a note today from our former Mayor Bestie Chronopoulos telling us that we should support the USPS food drive in May. However, I was told by Claire Crone and her husband Carl, who is a postmaster, that that whole effort has been postponed. So I don't think we're going to see that in our community. However, the Grow Mobile event has been posted on a number of websites, and that is a effort on the part of the DeKalb County Community Gardens, and they're going to be going all over the community. DeKalb May 1, Malta May 2, and in Waterman, Hinckley, Kingston, Cortland, Genoa, Sycamore, Sandwich, and DeKalb several times, and I commend Dan Kenny and his group for doing that. That is all I have to report, and I would like to now ask City Clerk Fazekas if you have anything to report.
I have 2 items. I'll keep them as brief as possible. The first one is that I'm going to be participating this week in a phone conference with the Council on Foreign Relations. This is part of their state and local initiative, and we'll be talking about COVID-19 and the shape of elections come this fall. I'm sure that I'll be sharing some information about that with you. The second thing is about your request that I come to City Hall to sign off on the Ventus paperwork. I am isolating at this point, and for good reason. However, I have some questions. Now, I would like the public to know that I have not signed any ordinances or resolutions or contracts since early November. I have not signed any licenses since mid-December. This is all the natural consequences of the ordinances that were passed in October, having to do with the clerk's position. And so over the past few months, I've seen more and more taken from my role, even while I was maintaining my office hours. So my question, which I have not been able to get an answer to, is why suddenly do you need me for this?
Is now exiting.
Lynn, are you still there?
That is all.
Lynn, was that you who exited?
No, that
Okay,
was not me
very
exiting.
good, very good. Well, it seemed like you ended your sentence, and then all of a sudden, we heard this, such and such is exiting the conference. Continue, please.
What I'm saying is, I need to know whether this is a matter of convenience for the city, or if there is some vital reason that I need to end my isolation and come in and sign these documents.
Mayor, may I address that, please?
Yeah, and I'd like to add, just simply say, the ending of the isolation is not necessary. We can deliver those to.
Well, they can be delivered, Mayor, or, as the council made very clear in October, any absence of the clerk, we can expedite the execution of these documents, get them
I'm sorry,
recorded tomorrow.
I cannot hear the city manager.
Certainly, the mayor can hand-deliver documents to stand in front of you and sign, and you can attest. If that's not convenient for you, or you feel there's a health risk in that, Lynn, we will execute the documents here as the ordinance that was passed in October allowed the city to do, and the executive assistant would do that. And then we can get these over to the county to be recorded, because until they're recorded, all the work that we put in tonight and all the work that everybody's put in for the last year comes to naught. They have to be matters of record, and they will be tomorrow one way or another. So if you want to work with us on that, Lynn, we're happy to work with you. If you have some reservations about that, then we'll proceed in another fashion.
I want to know why you need me now and you haven't needed me for 4 months.
Well, I don't know whether we need you. We're just asking if you want to work with us on this. So if you don't want to work with us on this, we'll proceed. It's very important to the city that we execute these documents and expedite them, because the developer right now, the project is ready to proceed. And they have a timeline to get done with some of their building by the end of the year. And as you know, time is wasting. And this is the construction season, the best time to get going. So we'd like to do that.
Ruth Scott has been expediting things for many months now.
Yes.
And so what I'm thinking is, yeah, I don't know what to think, but it kind of smells. That is all.
Well, it's up to the mayor then, if you want to deliver those, Mayor, and if not, we'll see that they are executed here.
Yes, and Lynn, I did get your final email today saying that logistically you were still thinking of that. So again, as to simply echo what City Manager Nicholas just said, I would be delighted to have those brought down to you. I will do that myself if you'd like. There are a couple of Mylar, I guess, documents and a couple of paper documents that I will sign and you attest, and we'll move forward. Lynn, anything else? City Clerk Vasikas, anything else?
That is all.
Thank you. City Manager Nicholas.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to do a couple things as briefly as I can. I want to thank Carl Comalucci for wading through not only the Ventus documents, but a lot of things tonight.
A lot of
things. You know how we do
tonight.
business here. And Jerry Krasinski, likewise. It's typical of Jerry to be here early and stay late to the end. He's done it as long as I've known him, and in this process that my involvement in a more substantial way began the first week in June last year. It's been a thrill to work with the Ventus team, who are watching this tonight and watching as we stream live on our website. And I want to thank all of them for their confidence in us and their willingness to take some risks early on to work with us in a very detailed fashion. This is a many-layered development, as you might imagine. And through this process, and there have been pushing and pulling, and we've addressed, I think, every reasonable concern. But through all of this, both sides have always tried to get to yes. And in behalf of the city, we're flattered that they would want to work with us in that fashion. It's never, in my experience, been quite as smooth, considering the degrees of difficulty that always go into these layered conversations. So thanks to them. One other person who got here early and has stayed late is our new airport manager, Renee Riani, who's in the mask in the back. Renee, as you know, please continue to stand. I don't know if we can get cameras on you, but Renee has a fine career in aviation. She's not unfamiliar with the DeKalb Taylor Municipal Airport. She has been teaching in the KEC program in the trailer off to the side of the main entrance for about 10 years, I believe. Young people who are looking at the aviation profession, and she's an outstanding teacher, but she also comes to us with two major ingredients that we and the Airport Advisory Board and you were looking for, and that is a background in marketing and development. And so with her previous experience at DePage Airport and in a number of different capacities, we're just delighted to have her. She started a week ago today and has been, well, I know she was working over the weekend because we were communicating and I knew she was over at the airport. So she's ready to go. She's dynamo. We're very fortunate to have her. Thank you, Renee. I mentioned the upcoming committees of the whole topics that, for one meeting, and then also on the 25th we have a committee of the whole. It will be John Petrogallo's last council meeting, and he is going to be presenting the annual report for 2019, and also we'll have we'll have an opportunity to thank a number of patrol officers and other ranks for meritorious service to the city of DeKalb. And I want to thank in advance, I guess, a little preview of what I'm going to say at the 25th. I want to thank John for his meritorious service. He's been in all the ranks, and he jumped in when we needed him most, and has been a great guy to work with. I'm so fortunate to have had that opportunity. So we'll talk more about this on the 25th.
Yeah, look forward to that. Thank you.
Two quick things. No Memorial Day parade today today. Not today, not at the end of the month either, of May, unfortunately, because of the circumstances we find ourselves in. The City Hall move is tentatively planned for May 15th. That may have to change as well. Blackhawk Moving and Storage has been particularly understanding of the new reality that seems to change week by week. So they've been working with us, and it's affected their business too. They know we're going to be there with them at some point, but getting together and congregating, a move is a collaborative process, and you can't be at 6 feet. And we'd have to break a lot of protocols in order to move right now, but we'll see where we are later in the month of May. Thank you.
Mayor.
Alderman Fanouken.
Bill, a point of clarification. If I remember correctly, Memorial Day is the 25th, so will the council meeting not be till the 26th then?
Good point. My fault. Yeah, you're right. I was looking ahead on the calendar, and of course it says that, we will.
Well, I just wanted to make sure we were clarified right up front.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other items for the good of the cause? If not, we have no executive session tonight. I'd entertain a motion to adjourn this meeting of the DeKalb City Council.
So moved.
Second?
It's been moved by Alderman Verbeek, seconded by Alderman Favor, that we adjourn this meeting. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you very, very much.